Continuous praise to the Most High God, King of heaven and earth, even the God of our forefathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzchak, and the God of Israel. To him and to him alone are all due praises. Brothers and sisters, we are Congregation Shomray Hab'reet, and we are the keepers of the covenant. We give thanks and praise to the Most High God this day for all things of everything, even for this seventh day of Chag Matzot, even for bringing us to the ending of another holy season, and I am going to call it a holy season, because anytime we come before the Most High God, it is a holy season. We had 7 days of eating unleavened bread, 7 days of feasting. And if you haven't been feasting, then shame on you. We have 7 days to reflect on the salvation of the Most High God. And we've had 7 days to consider how the Most High God wanted us to commemorate this season. I remind us, and I want us to always keep in mind, that the God that we serve never wants us to forget what he has done for us. He always wants us to remember that there's a way that we should praise and glorify him after he has shown his miracles for us. Those 10 miracles, those 10 wonders that the whole world witnessed as Egypt was being destroyed. Those 10 things that the Most High God did that caused us to know that he chose us to be his peculiar treasure. Oftentimes, we are people that we become a "what have you done for me lately" type of crowd. You know, if you haven't done something for me recently, then why are you bringing up old stuff? You ever have friends that you deal with and they're like, "Oh, you bringing up something that you did for me 5 years ago, 10 years ago? What, do I owe you for the rest of my life?" Well, it's different with God, right? When it comes to the Most High God, yes, we do owe him for the rest of our life, because we owe him our lives. We owe him our dedication. We owe him, brothers and sisters, our discipline. We've been a people far removed from understanding how to appreciate God. Think of the nations of the earth. Think about your forefathers. Think about the people that you have served God with, and how many of them have taught you to appreciate God. And how many of you are appreciating God on this day? And all God asks us to do is to serve him. And you know, the irony of all of this, when God tells us to appreciate him, he tells us, have a feast before him. When he tells us to appreciate him, he's telling us, I want you to have fun. And at the same time, don't forget what I did, because this is what's going on. Has Chag Matzot become a burden to you yet? Tell the truth. All that cleaning, all that eliminating, I'm not going to say throwing out, all of that eliminating and transitioning things out of your home, it was a lot at first, right? But then once you were in it, it became a little bit more simple. Once you were in it, then you were like, okay, fine. Have people questioned you yet on why you can't eat certain things during Chag Matzot? Just when they thought they understood your dietary rules and your dietary laws, then you came and things that you usually eat, you were like, nah, I can't eat that. Or, no, I can't do that right now. What they ask you, is there pork in it? What did they ask you? Why can't you eat this? What did they ask you? You usually eat this, so why don't you eat it now? That was your segue. That was your opportunity. That was the point where God wanted you to step in and say, because God told us to eat a certain way during Passover. When we have restrictions during the season of Chag Matzot, those restrictions also commemorate the Passover season. They commemorate the Feast of Unleavened Bread. What is unleavened bread? What's leavened bread? What's a bitter herb? Right? Why do you guys eat lamb? How come we're doing things a certain way? And how come God is telling you that today is a holy day? We're going to get into that in a little while. And we're going to give the Most High God thanks and praise for all things, for everything. Just so we know, I want everybody to make sure they bring out their scriptures, because there's going to be more than a few things that I'm showing to you this day. And the title of my lesson this day will be The Second Passover, the Second Blessing, and what it means, why God created a way for a second Passover, and why the second blessing is ever before us. But we're going to start with our portion of the day. And as always, as we start, we're going to pray before the Most High God. So I'm going to ask everyone to attend to the sound of the horn. Please rise and face the east. Hallelujah. And Moshe said unto Yahweh, see, thou sayest unto me, bring up this people, and thou hast not let me know whom thou wilt send with me. Yet thou hast said, I know thee by name, and thou hast also found grace in my sight. Now therefore I pray thee, if I have found grace in thy sight, show me now thy ways, that I may know thee, to the end that I may find grace in thy sight, and consider that this nation is thy people. And he said, my presence shall go with thee, and I will give thee rest. And he said unto him, if thy presence go not with me, carry us not up hence. For wherein now shall it be known that I have found grace in thy sight, I and thy people? Is it not in that thou goest with us, so that we are distinguished, I and thy people, from all the people that are upon the face of the earth? Brothers and sisters, please attend to the sound of the horn. Hallelujah. Yehovah God, God of the heavens, the God of our forefathers, even the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzchak, and the God of Israel. We give thanks and praise unto you, even on this holy day, Yom HaShvi'i, Chag Matzot, even on this seventh day of the feast. To understand, Yehovah God, you commanded us to even commemorate this season, to feast on unleavened bread, to understand what our forefathers went through, to understand how they had to eat, to understand how they had to leave Egypt in haste, to understand, Yehovah God, that as they were leaving one land and going into another, as they were going into a place of the unknown, that you fed them, Yehovah God, a different way. That, Yehovah God, the comfortability that we enjoy, even in these houses that we live in, even in our captivity now, the same way the children of Israel were in their captivity in Egypt, that, Yehovah God, one day that would change in order for us to march to our freedom. And therefore we thank and praise you, Yehovah God, because we come before you this day, where you keep our tables full. You allow us to feast this day. You allow us to have the lamb, Yehovah God. You allow us to have the tart negolet, Yehovah God. You allow us to have the tart negolet hodu, Yehovah God. You allow us to have the dog. You allow us to have, Yehovah God, all the things that I just mentioned, even the chicken and the turkey and the fish and all the different things that we eat, Yehovah God, before you, Yehovah God. We are not living in famine, but Yehovah God, we feast before you. And therefore we give you thanks and praise, Yehovah God, asking that you might continue to provide for your people, asking, Yehovah God, that we might feast before you forever, that, Yehovah God, as we feast and as our bellies are full, that we wouldn't be satisfied, Yehovah God, just by the taste of our tongue, but we would be satisfied with the fullness of your word. That, Yehovah God, as we come before you this day, we open up your book to understand, Yehovah God, the things you left on record, to understand, Yehovah God, those holy days that you put even in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, to understand, Yehovah God, that you told us in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 2, not to diminish from your word, that you taught us, Yehovah God, that we should live in it, even in the lands of our captivity, that you taught us, Jehovah God, that there's a way that we should walk before you, that there's a way, Jehovah God, that we should make our history important to us. Therefore, I ask, Jehovah God, that you bless those souls, that you bless those minds, that you bless those hearts that are even weak this day, Jehovah God, that sit in a state of confusion, that need to understand, Jehovah God, how to praise you and how to glorify you, that you would open up their hearts to knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, that they wouldn't take away parts of your Torah, that they won't take away parts, Jehovah God, of your mitzvot, of the commandments, Jehovah God. I ask, Jehovah God, that you bring us all to understanding so that we wouldn't take days like this for days to go to work. And we wouldn't take days like this to do our own vain things, Jehovah God, to go meet up with friends, to go to concerts, Jehovah God, to go out to the park and play basketball, to do things, Jehovah God, that you wouldn't want us to do. But that, Jehovah God, we would hold this day and have it to remain to be holy before you, that this day would be different before you, that it wouldn't be another day off of work or just another day off of school, or that we wouldn't take these days, Jehovah God, for our own vain pleasures, that we would argue with one another and fight with one another, Jehovah God, and use it as a point of dissension. But days like this, Jehovah God, would be days of unification. That days like this, Jehovah God, will be days that we could appreciate you more. That days like this, Jehovah God, we could appreciate the place of worship, Jehovah God, even more. That we would appreciate, Jehovah God, the things that you blessed us with. Therefore, I ask, Jehovah God, that you bless this people in such a way that, Jehovah God, our minds would be open to Torah, that our minds would be open to one another, that our minds might be open to you, Jehovah God, and that, Jehovah God, as we go over your laws, your statutes, your commandments, and your judgments, it would make us better as a people. We call upon you because we realize that you are God and God alone, and that beside you there's no other. Hoping and praying that you heard the words of this prayer, even as you heard the words of our forefathers' prayer, even Abraham, Yitzchak, and Israel, those men whom you desire to make covenant with and blessed according to their righteousness, and hoping and praying that you find me and my family, this entire congregation of Shomray Hab'reet, all of those who are within the sound of my voice, the children of Israel, and the four corners of the world, wherever we may be, worthy and even acceptable to be part of that righteous remnant and part of that righteous generation that you said will be the repairs of the breach and restore the streets of dwelling. All glory, all honor, and all praises unto your name now forevermore. Hallelujah. 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 Well, amen. Brothers and sisters, I'm going to ask that you open up your books, even to the book of Psalms. Our first psalm that we will recite this day is the 104th Psalm, Psalm 104. The 104th Psalm, hallelujah. Bless Yehovah, O my soul. O Yehovah, my God, thou art very great. Thou art clothed with glory and majesty, who covers thyself with light as with a garment, who stretches out the heavens like a curtain, who lays the beams of thy upper chambers in the waters, who makes thy clouds, who makes the clouds thy chariot, who walks upon the wings of the wind, who makes winds thy messengers, the flaming fire thy ministers, who did establish the earth upon its foundations, that it should not be moved forever and ever. Thou didst cover it with deep as with a vesture. The waters stood above the mountains. At thy rebuke they fled. At the voice of thy thunder they hasted away. The mountains rose, the valleys sank down unto the place which thou hast founded for them. Thou didst set a bound which they should not pass over, that they might not return to cover the earth. Who sends forth springs into the valleys? They run between the mountains. They give drink to every beast of the field. The wild asses quench their thirst. Beside them, the fowl of the heaven. From among the branches, they sing. Who waters the mountains from thine upper chambers? The earth is full of the fruit of thy works. Who causes the grass to spring up for the cattle, and herb for the service of man, to bring forth bread out of the earth, and wine that makes glad the heart of man, making the face brighter than oil, and bread that stays man's heart. The trees of Yahweh have their fill, the cedars of Lebanon which he has planted, wherein the birds make their nests. As for the stork, the fir trees are her house. The high mountains are for the wild goats. The rocks are refuge for the conies. Who appointest the moon for the seasons? The sun knows his going down. Thou makest darkness, and it is night, wherein all the beasts of the forest do creep forth. The young lions roar after their prey and seek their food from God. The sun arises, they slink away and couch in their dens. Man goes forth unto his work and to his labor until the even. How manifold are thy works, O Jehovah, and wisdom hast thou made them all. The earth is full of thy creatures. Yonder sea, great and wide, therein are creeping things innumerable, living creatures, both small and great. There go the ships. There is Leviathan, whom thou hast formed to sport therein. All of them wait for thee, that thou mayest give them their food in due season. Thou givest it unto them, they gather it. Thou openest thy hand, they are satisfied with good. Thou hidest thy face, they vanish. Thou withdrawest their breath, they perish and return to their dust. Thou sendest forth thy spirit, they are created, and thou renewest the face of the earth. May the glory of Yahweh endure forever. Let Yahweh rejoice in his works. Who looks on the earth and it trembles? He touches the mountains and they smoke. I will sing unto Yahweh as long as I live. I will sing praises to my God while I have any being. Let my musing be sweet unto him. As for me, I will rejoice in Yahweh. Let sinners cease out of the earth, and let the wicked be no more. Bless Yahweh, O my soul. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. The 34th Psalm, brothers and sisters, Psalm 34. And Salika, I did say Psalm 34. Please turn to Psalm 32. Psalm 32. The 32nd Psalm, hallelujah. Hallelujah. Happy is he whose transgression is forgiven, whose sin is pardoned. Happy is the man unto whom thou countest not iniquity, and whose spirit there is no guile. When I kept silent, my bones wore away through my groaning all the day long. For day and night thy hand was heavy upon me. My sap was turned as in the droughts of summer. Selah. I acknowledge my sin unto thee, and my iniquity have I not hid. I said, I will make confession concerning my transgressions unto Yahweh, and thou forgivest the iniquity of my sin. Selah. For this let everyone that is godly pray unto thee, and a time when thou mayest be found. Surely when the great waters overflow, they will not reach unto him. Thou art my hiding place. Thou wilt preserve me from the adversary. With songs of deliverance thou wilt compass me about. Selah. I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. I will give counsel, my eye being upon thee. Be ye not as the horse or as the mule, which have no understanding, whose mouth must be held in with bit and bridle, that they come not near unto thee. Many are the sorrows of the wicked, but he that trusteth in Yahweh, mercy compasses him about. Be glad in Yahweh and rejoice, ye righteous, and shout for joy, all ye that are upright in heart. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Well, amen. You may be seated. Continuous praise to the Most High God, King of heaven and earth, even the God of our forefathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzchak, and the God of Israel. To him and to him alone are all due praises. Once again, brothers and sisters, Kag Tov Lakem, I ask that the Most High God continue to be with you all, guide you all, and protect you all. I want us to take note to that 32nd Psalm. Did we see what happened there in the middle of the Psalm? When it starts off, if you see in the beginning, it says a Psalm of David, a maskil, right? But David starts talking. In the middle of King David talking, the Most High God takes over in verse 8. I want us to remember that. I want us to keep that in mind. In verse 8, no, wait, first let's do verse 7. Verse 7, Thou art my hiding place. This is King David talking. Thou will preserve me from the adversary. With songs of deliverance, thou will compass me about. Salah. Then in verse 8, God comes in. And God says, I will instruct thee and teach thee in the way which thou shalt go. I will give counsel, my eye being upon thee. Do we see how that goes? This is the part that we're looking for. This is the part that we need to know, especially when we're confused. I will instruct thee and teach thee. How many of us want God to instruct us and teach us? How many of us want God to point us in the path that I never have to think twice, is this what God wants me to do? I never have to think twice, is God leading me this way because? How many of us want that? Sometimes we're a little bit afraid to get closer to God because we know our responsibility increases. You can't be afraid of success. You can't be afraid of assuming your righteous posture. Why am I bringing this up? Because when we come days, they've gotten used to us taking Saturday off now, right? They've gotten used to us saying, oh, Friday night when the sun goes down, I don't do anything. But what do you do when it comes to Thursday night and the sun goes down and I can't do anything? How do you handle that? You're supposed to treat it like the Shabbat, but is that what Israel is doing? You're supposed to treat it like a holy day, but are we treating it like a holy day? And if we're not treating it like a holy day, then the question that we have to ask ourselves, is God instructing us? Is that what God taught us? Do you find yourself in a space that you say, I take the counsel of God? Where can the counsel of God be found? I'm hoping everyone is at least thinking in their mind in the Holy Scriptures. God advises us. He warns us. He sends us people, and sometimes he tells us directly. A lot of times, how is God talking to us? Through the prophets. Are you familiar with your prophecy? Are you familiar with what the prophets, through the voice of God, were warning the people not to be a part of? Did God warn us about forgetting his law? Yes. Did God warn us about taking on the ways of the nations? Yes. And after God warned us about it, did we find ourselves in a space where we still did it anyway? Yes. Read Deuteronomy 32. Read it. Find out about it. See what's happening there. I guarantee you it will be an enlightening moment. How many of us think we stopped serving God just because we went into captivity? Because I'm telling you right now, if you think that that's what made us stop serving God, you are sadly mistaken. We are in captivity because we stopped serving God while we were in the land. How many of you think that the land is your connection to doing the right thing? Oh, no. Oh, no. I remind all of us, Abraham did the right thing before there was a land of Israel. Abraham got his blessing because no matter where he went, he maintained his righteous posture. I'm saying to us that as we get to the seventh day of Chag Matzot, there's some people who think they're sacrificing money right now. Am I right or wrong? There's some people who are thinking right now they're sacrificing a bit of their happiness. Because guess what? 48 hours back to back, Moray? 48 hours of righteousness? No TV, no radio, no phone. You didn't say phone. No phone, no iPad. None of that foolishness, no secular business. Not following your own wants and desires, but your desire should be to serving God. You know how many people can't make it past the 24 hours of serving God? How, I tell people this all the time. How do I expect you to observe the seventh day of Chag Matzot if you ain't even observing Shabbat right? You got people that's observing half a day of Shabbat, a quarter day of Shabbat. You got people who are looking at the Shabbat, looking at the Sabbath day, and they think about sleeping the day away. Is that what people do? Do people sleep the day away on the Sabbath?
Yes, they do.
Okay. If that's your usual routine, then now what do I do when I can't sleep 48 hours straight? Because if you sleep all day on the Sabbath, now what are you going to do? Sleep all day on the seventh day of Chag Matzot and then sleep all day on the Sabbath? Oh, now we got a problem. Now we got an issue. Now it's something different. I don't understand, Moray. I'm a little bit confused, Moray. How did we get to a point? How did we get to a point where we associated sleeping with the Shabbat?
People take the word rest literal.
Oh, you thought that word rest was it? Well, I'm going to show you today, not only did they not rest on the Shabbat, I'm going to show you they were working. And I'm going to show you that not only were they working and observing the feast, they not only feasted for 7 days, they added additional days onto the feast. Now, I want y'all to dig that. They added additional days. They shut down the country and added additional days to serve God. How many of you are willing to do that? If there's anything that COVID should have taught us in the practices of it, it should have taught us that work is not as important as they have been claiming it is. There's people who have missed months of work. There's some people who, by choice, did not work for over a year. Your job wasn't open. You were wondering if you had a job to go back to. Then finally they got to a point where you had to work remotely. You had to think about how things were going to work. You didn't worry about Shabbat anymore. You didn't worry about days off anymore because you could do whatever you want to do. And here we are, a little bit later. I don't know if I can get this day off of work. Yes, you do. Yeah, you do. It just depends on what you're going to fight for. I'm saying that, brothers and sisters, because when you fight for God, you have to ask yourself the question, where does your blessing lie? When we observe this day, is there a blessing behind it?
Okay.
When we observe the Shabbat, is there a blessing behind it?
Okay.
When we wear zitiot, fringes, is there a blessing behind it?
Okay.
When we don't serve other gods, is there a blessing behind it?
Okay.
When we honor our father and our mother, is there a blessing behind it? When we don't covet our neighbor's stuff, his wife, his house, his manservant, his maidservant, or anything that is our neighbor's, is there a blessing behind it?
Okay.
When we don't steal, is there a blessing behind it? So where does your blessing lie? Because when we look at Leviticus 23 is part of the additional blessings. And when you get yourself to a point that you take one blessing out, you open the door for another curse to come in. You close the door to the blessing, but you open the door to the curse. You didn't understand that you were letting the curse in. You didn't understand that you were getting rid of your protection. All you knew is that you didn't want to do one more thing. And so as we got here and as we did the different things that we had to do, as we began to serve God, we had to stop and understand that God was asking us, do you want to be blessed? God is the blessing. He's asking us, do we want him in our lives? Because if we have God in our lives, then we are walking with the blessing. And when we don't have God in our lives, if when we walk with God in our lives, we have the blessing, then what do we have in our life if we don't have God? The curse. Absolutely. Undoubtedly. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. The curse is waiting for us. How come I don't get what I want? How come these things keep happening? How come I'm not blessed the way that I want to be blessed? But are you walking the way that you need to walk? Are you talking the way you need to talk? Are you serving God the way he wants you to serve him?
Gotta work for your blessings.
Are you still serving a false God? Sometimes the false God that you serve isn't about JC. Sometimes the false God that you serve isn't about another religion. Sometimes the false God that you serve is the idols in your mind, the things that keep you back from serving God. And so when we find ourselves in these spaces, brothers and sisters, we have to ask ourselves, is there a blessing within the blessing?
Yes.
How do you get a blessing from the blessing? Unless when I get blessed, there's already another blessing waiting for me.
Double blessing.
The double blessing. The double portion. I didn't realize how this can benefit me in a multiplicity of ways. We all remember what they did with the peanut, right? Black History Month moment. They went and they took the peanut and they did everything with it. Everything. They had to stop, and they didn't know that they could do so much with the peanut. The peanut was the blessing. But the different things you can do with the peanut, that's the thing. That is the amazing part of it all. How many of us look at our Holy Scriptures and see it as a blessing?
Okay.
All right. I'm going to start going there. I'm going there on a holy day. Because if you're seeing it as a blessing, if that's what you thought that it was, how often are you in it?
Should be day and night.
Should be. But what's actually happening?
You have distractions.
Are there distractions?
Social media take up 3 hours of our day.
Right.
We can spend 3 hours or at least an hour reading Torah.
Well, what else happens?
Our work ain't done at home.
Right.
We spend time with our spouse, our children.
Correct. Right. Does your scriptures tell you to spend time with your spouse? Deuteronomy 6. Talk of this law when thou liest down, when thou risest up, when thou walkest by the way. Who are you talking about it to?
Family.
Family. The blessing in the blessing. You read it, but you didn't think about the deepness of it. Oh, yeah. That's right. Deuteronomy tells me to talk to my family about it. And I'm distracted. I didn't even know that it said that. What did you say? Deuteronomy chapter 6?
Shema.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thy heart. And thou shalt talk of them when thou sittest in thy house, when thou walkest by the way, when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt write them for a sign upon thy hands, and they shall be as what? Frontlets between thy eyes. And thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thy house and upon thy gates. How am I able to call that off like that? Tell me.
Because you read.
You gotta read it. I committed it to memory. I committed it to memory. How important is it to you to commit the word of God to memory, if it indeed is your blessing?
It's a blessing to call off scriptures and not go in a book. It's a blessing to have that memory.
I want to get closer to God, but I keep forgetting the commandments. How many people, I got to ask the question. How many people didn't even know today was a holy day? Because sometimes we got to ask ourselves, like, why do you not know that today is the holy day? Besides the Shabbat, when is your next holy day? What is the name of your next holy day? Let's do that. And here we go. Is it Sukkot? No. Heard it. Shavuot. I was like, is it Yom Kippur? Like, no, that's too early, Moray. We know when Yom Kippur is, right? That's the time when we don't eat. Is it Yom Kippur? No, not the Day of Atonement. It's not there. What about Yom Teruah? Yom Teruah. Which one is that? Right? Are we still doing that? The Feast of Weeks. Why do you think you have certain people who talk about the counting of the Omer? Right? Because you're counting those 49 days until what? The Feast of Weeks.
Pesach is a reminder of that feast day coming up because you got to count.
Of course. Not only is Pesach the reminder, I want us to remember that when that sickle was put to the grain, that commemorated that the Most High God left bread on our table. What is the Feast of Weeks about?
Our first fruits.
It's about our first fruits, but stay in the bread range.
Waving, the wave off.
The wave loaves. How many wave loaves? 2. 2 wave loaves. That is your offering. The first time, unleavened bread was what you had to eat, but the second time, what did you have to eat? Leavened bread. The second time you had to eat leavened bread. The second time you had to bring 2 wave loaves, that ephah of fine flour, right? Why is God focusing so much on bread? Well, it seems to me that
it was our staple food.
Well, beyond the staple food, and as a man, I tell you, carbs is always important to us. Besides it being a staple food, I want us to remember that the bread that we ate when we left Egypt, we had to make it in haste. And when you eat unleavened bread, does it make you appreciate leavened bread? Did I say that right?
Yes.
Once you eat unleavened bread, you definitely appreciate leavened bread. You're like, oh man. But what does leavened bread take? Time. What does leavened bread take? You got to knead that dough. You got to let it rise. You appreciate the time that God allotted to you to make the food taste the way you want it to taste. How many of us are those type of people? Do we appreciate God? Do we appreciate what he's feeding us with? Do we appreciate the fact that he's establishing a way for us to eat a certain way so that we can always appreciate who he is? Who would have ever thought? I just told us about a blessing within the blessing. Who would have ever thought that the blessing of bread within that blessing is what? Leavening. Leavening is the blessing. I appreciate leavening after Kagmatzot, right? Be like, my goodness, when the sun goes down, it'll be Shabbat. But after Shabbat, right? There's a lot of people that have leavening parties. It's like, look, let's do this like this. Let's make sure that we have that, right? And nothing wrong with it. It's all within the rules, right? What's the first thing that we're going to eat that's leavened? But I tell you what, this time in this season, I bet you appreciated, I bet your body appreciated the difference in the way that you ate, right? You ate less food with preservatives. You had more food that was natural. You more than likely drank more water. You made sure that everything that you ate kept you in a space where you were full, but it wasn't too much. This is the God that we serve. The blessing was in the blessing. How many of us have lived lives where we missed our blessing? Right? Some of us have those moments where we're like, I can't believe I let that blessing pass me on by. Some of us find ourselves in spaces, right, that we had to stop and we ask ourselves, we're like, how do we let that opportunity pass us? Is serving God an opportunity to you?
Yes.
Why?
You get to know him. You get to know his laws.
You get to know him, but the reason why it's an opportunity is because everybody don't serve God. Everybody didn't get the opportunity to serve God. There are some people who are wasting their lives away. Am I right or am I wrong? There's people who you can see that you're like, you have all the potential in the world and you refuse to utilize what God has blessed you with. We know this. But the reality is, if the blessing was intended for you, it won't miss you.
Sometimes you walk right into it.
Sometimes you didn't even know you were being blessed. Sometimes you didn't know the blessing was right there. And then when you finally realized it, it was like Hagar sitting in the wilderness, finally seeing the well of water, listening to Ishmael cry, thinking he was about to die, thinking, what are they going to do? I can't go back home. I don't know where I could go to. And God opened up her eyes and showed her the well of water off in the distance. Has that ever been your blessing? Sometimes it's things. Sometimes it's money. You ever found money that you didn't expect? You know how that made you feel?
Yes.
You know how that made you feel. I know how it made me feel.
Man, I got me this bill.
Wow. Right? So it happens. You were stressing. You didn't know. You found the money and you was like, God is surely good. Right? And you might not even had it too long, right? Because you're like, oh boy, nah, this is what I got to do with it. But it helped. It was the blessing. Sometimes your blessing is what? Going through your bags. Sisters, I know y'all went through your bags before Kagmatzot got started.
Yes, I did.
You found a few blessings in there. I know you did.
Yeah.
I know you found some stuff that you were looking for, and you were like, finally. You appreciated Kagmatzot, even though you didn't want to clean, even though you didn't want to flip that bag like that, and you found all that other stuff. What ended up happening? You appreciated the process. Don't you know when you struggle with your children, when the child struggles with the parent, when the parent struggles with the child, the blessing is not necessarily for the day, but in the years to come. Countless days I was talking to this boy about X, Y, and Z, and I honestly thought he would never get it. And then what happened? He matured. What happened? He got older. He lived life. He went through some things. He remembered your lessons. And so you being the blessing that was lying in you was the seed that you would bring forth. The blessing in the blessing. We're going to have to understand, brothers and sisters, that the blessings that we're looking for, we can't always see it for what it is. Can your voice be a blessing?
Yes.
I guarantee you, if somebody's about to get hit by a car and you yell, "Look out," your voice was a blessing to that person. How many people talk to people and they can't hear them? Like, I was trying to tell you, move. Does that happen? Of course it does. This is what understanding the second blessing is about. And I'm telling you this because if the blessing is intended for you and it won't miss you, God has always provided a provision. We've had men in our lives that always had two blessings. Abraham had two blessings. Yitzchak had two blessings. Yaakov had two blessings. But what were those two blessings? I just talked to us about Hagar, right? So we know Abraham. We understood who he was. We understood how he was blessed. What was his blessing? His seed would be as the sand of the seashore. But when it started off, what was the first blessing? I'll say it. But Ishmael. Ishmael was a blessing to Abraham. We may not like the fact of how God went about it and what Mother Sarah had to do. But Ishmael was that first blessing. Ishmael was there only to show Abraham that, yeah, he can still do it. That's it. Nothing more. Ishmael was there and the seed would be blessed. The child would be blessed. But Abraham needed to see that he could do it. But who was the second blessing? Yitzchak. And the second blessing was the blessing. Sometimes your initial blessing won't be the greatest thing to come. Sometimes you think because you've been blessed, if you got $100 today, if you get 100,000 tomorrow, what's better? The first blessing or the second blessing? You got 100, but when you got 100,000, you was taking a bag. You was like, wow. Sometimes your blessing the second time around, brothers and sisters, is the better part of the blessing. The reason why Yitzchak was the better part of the blessing is because that's who the covenant would go through. And did Abraham have other children besides that? Yes, he did. We don't know their names, but he did. Those children were blessed also, right? But the blessing went through Yitzchak. How many of us believe that the best part is yet to come?
Amen.
You got to believe it. You got to walk in that truth. You got to have it in your mind. And don't tell yourself, because now that you reached the ripe old age of 32, that your best days are before you. I don't know how people got to the point where like your 20s was like the best, most vibrant thing of your life. You're going to have to realize that the older you get, the wiser you get, the better decisions that you make means the better the blessing that will come.
Gotta wait for it. You're gonna get it all at once.
not only do you got to wait for it, while you're waiting, prepare yourself.
Have hope in your blessing.
Imagine getting $100,000 and you don't have a bank account. Watch this. Bro, you ain't got a bank account? Yeah, I got $100,000, but can you put the $100,000 in your account for me? What? Is your spiritual bank open? Do you have an account with God? When he's ready to fill your spirit, do you have space for it? Or has your account been closed?
Oh, account is open.
Do you know how to gain access to your account? You know how many people got accounts and don't have access to it? Like, you don't got access to your account. Yeah, well, you know, my Isha, she takes care of all of that for me. What? All right, fine, she takes care of it, but you don't know how to get in it? What are we doing right now? My Isha can't follow me around everywhere. My mother, my father can't follow me around everywhere. There may be people who love me, have my best interests in mind, but they can't follow me around everywhere. And this is my spirit. I'll walk with it all the days of my life. What do you do to guard your spirit? What do you do to protect your spirit? What do you do to feed your spirit?
Get in the Word of God.
What do you do to give from your spirit? I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, that when we look at the blessing within the blessing, we seen that Yaakov tried to come out, but who came out first? Esau, right? Esau came. That was fine. Then Yaakov came, minutes apart. Who was the first blessing?
Esau.
Esau. Who was the second blessing?
Yaakov.
Yaakov. Who did the covenant go through?
Yaakov.
Yaakov. That's how it happened. Sometimes we don't like it like that, but it's what it is. Now, I like it like that. I'm just going to let y'all know right now. I appreciate Yaakov. The blessing was inside of Raquel. Inside of Rivka, Rebecca. She had two nations within her womb. But the second one to come out, that would be the one who the blessing goes through.
Same way with Abraham, his second child.
His second child. Now I'm going to take a turn for us. Yaakov. What were his two blessings?
He got his name changed.
He got his name changed. What else?
His family.
His family. That's what Yaakov left for, right? To establish a family. If y'all notice everything about Yaakov and all the things Yaakov did, he didn't start establishing himself until what? He started building a family. Keep that in mind. Okay? Here goes Yaakov. What was one of his first acquisitions? Don't be afraid to say it. I know y'all want to say it, but y'all just like, Moray, don't do us like that. Yeah, one of his first acquisitions were wives, right? The first thing he did when he got there, he asked him, he was like, you've been with me for a month. What would you like? And what did he say he'll do? He said, I'll work 7 years for your daughter, Raquel. Is that what happened? Mm-hmm. He worked 7 years. What did he end up getting? Leah. Was Leah his blessing? Of course she was. Of course she was. Let me listen. Thank you. And I'm going to teach y'all something right now. Every time we want something, that doesn't mean that it's not our blessing. Oh, I didn't get what I wanted, but you understood the benefit of it later on. You understood later why you needed it. You talk about Leah all you want. Let me tell you, Leah had 7 of his children.
The top ones.
She had the ones, when I say they made up half the tribes. So yeah, he may not have wanted it, but was that his blessing?
And his daughter.
Right? So then, it's one of those things. But when you think about Raquel and what she presented, who did she give him? And I just, I know we start getting sensitive on these things, but who did she give him?
2.
She gave him 2, but who did she give him? Say it.
Oh, his
Yosef. She gave him Yosef. Raquel gave him Yosef. Yosef was the one he did. Listen, Yosef was his choice, right? I'm saying this because, when Yaakov looked at it at the end of the day, of all his struggles, that's what he got. That's what he needed. He needed that one son who could understand him. How important is it for your children to understand you, parents?
It's crucial.
Very crucial. It can become frustrating, right? Sit down, you're like, how much longer am I going to continue to talk to you about the same things? But that child that you could tell one time and they're like, Cain, Abi. End of our Abi. That's a dear Emi. How great is it when your children call you up and they're like, Shalom, Ema. I just wanted to make sure that you were all right. Oh, my goodness. It's about time. It is about time. I thought this was another phone call about money. Right. Did you? Oh, my goodness. Did you cook? Background. It becomes one of those things, brothers and sisters, that when we look at everything going on, we have to stop and we have to say to ourselves, our forefathers were blessed multiple times. Abraham was blessed multiple times. Yaakov was blessed multiple times. Yitzchak was blessed multiple times. Not only were they blessed, but their wives were blessed. I always say about Yaakov, he had his 4 women, right? And within his 4 women, they also were blessed, even though Yaakov was going through struggles. How does that work? I'm telling us this because I want us to remember this. Also, sometimes we feel God leaves us out. Sometimes we think because one person is blessed and we see another blessing another way, that maybe God isn't thinking so much about me. But God always provides a way. You don't need to be the first to be blessed. You don't need to be the second to be blessed. You don't need to be the third to be blessed. You know what you have to be? You got to be right. How many people, I tell people all the time, like, Yosef earned his blessing. He didn't come in. This wasn't no thing that Yosef was born, and because it was the child of the wife that Yaakov loved, that's why he treated him like that. Yosef listened. How many of us want a child that listens? Me. It's like, sit down. Oh, you know what? You never listened to me, but come on over here. I just love you so much. Sometimes our children need to hear. You annoy me when you don't listen to me. You don't know how frustrating it is to give you an instruction and to think he's going to do his own thing anyway. She's going to do her own thing anyway. And then after I call you out on it, you're going to lie to my face like I'm stupid. I got to put it like that. You know why? Because that's what we do to God. You know what we do to God? We go to God and we feel like, God, you know I'm sorry. No, you ain't. No, you're not. And God knows. When you said that lie, you said it to yourself. You even knew in your heart, you were like, I am sorry, but if this situation presents itself again, I'll do things just a little bit different so I won't feel like this. And then you did it again. And what ended up happening? Things worked out a different way. I'm telling us, brothers and sisters, because as we move forward, there's a way for all of these things to work. There's a way for us to understand how to walk before God, how to be found acceptable before God. There's a way for us to understand that God wants to bless us if we want to be blessed. I'm telling us that there's a way that we could actually find multiple blessings if we learn how to appreciate the first blessing. Have you ever thought I'm taking advantage of a friendship? Have you ever thought I'm taking advantage of a friendship? It's like, I tell you how people do it all the time. Now you take advantage of a friendship. Oh, ask Moray. He'll do it. He won't tell you no. You're like, what is that supposed to mean? Are you just asking the person because they won't tell you no? Or are you asking the person because you really need the person? Well, you're going to have to, and this is what they teach you in the business world, right? You're going to have to learn to lean on the people that you can rely upon. Okay, but you sacrifice one for the other. You may get done what you need to get done, but at the end of the day, will you lose a good soul? When you serve God, you cannot take a business approach in dealing with the spirits that the Most High God have led you to. God has brought you this way and caused you to understand what you're going through so you can learn to appreciate one another. If I love you, I won't treat you a certain way. If I love you, I won't do certain things to you. If I love you, I won't say certain things to you. And if I truly love you, I'll admit that I'm wrong. See, Mordecai is always apologizing about something. That is not a character flaw. That's a highlight. That's a good brother. Like, that brother Jared. Sick him. Always running his mouth. Anybody know my brother? It's sometimes you gotta like draw it, right? I gotta talk to him for a while. Be like, hey, what do you think? Blah, 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 blah. I'm saying that because as we move forward, brothers and sisters, what we're going to have to understand is that we are going to have to learn to appreciate not only God, but learn to appreciate the blessing. Not just the first blessing, but the second blessing. I can appreciate the friend, but not appreciate the friendship. I appreciate that I have friends. And, I like to collect friends. Yeah, you have a lot of friends, but what type of friend do they think you are? She's my friend, but she likes to talk about me sometimes. How many times do we overlook the faults of our friends? That's what makes us friends, right? Because we overlook their faults. But there's some things that are fatal flaws, right? There's certain things that you're like, yo, wait a minute. Pump the brakes. What's going on here? How does God feel about you and your flaws? And is it something that you would break a friendship for? I start with myself. Sometimes we gotta go there, right? I'll tell you, I had to realize about myself that things that I did against the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God in an effort to believe God understands. If somebody dealt with me in that way, I will cut them off immediately without hesitation. Pride myself on the fact to be like, look, I don't play those games ever. If you tell me one thing and do another, and if you do this like this and blah, blah, you know what? I don't need you in my life. But meanwhile, this is how I'm dealing with God. I had to grow spiritually. I had to have a process that I got myself to, that I could finally stop and say to myself, you know what? I'm not going to continue to deal with God like that. I'm not going to have it to be a thing where God would look at me, know my heart is good, but watch me continue to do wrong. How many friends do we have that we say their heart is in the right place? Come on, come on, come on. You're like, they're good people. Their heart is in the right place. You know what you're saying when that happens? It's like, you know. When I say you know, you know. The reality is you had to get yourself to a space where you were like, I'm going to continue to overlook this, and hopefully one day we'll get to this point. That's because that's how God's been dealing with us. For his mercy endures forever.
He called David his friend and he had mercy on him.
He called David his friend and he had mercy on him. Most of us have been given a second opportunity and a second blessing. Most of us have been given a second opportunity and a second blessing, but do we see it? Do you know what your second blessing is? Do you know what your second blessing is? How about it? Do you know what your second blessing is?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So, when you got your second blessing, have you ever gotten another opportunity after you thought you blew it? Ding, 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 ding. Here we go. Now that you say that, bro, now I'm with you. Have you ever gotten a second opportunity? Well, listen. Well, the way I said it is, so this one right here, you know, she's been listening to my lesson and all the other stuff, so she knows where I'm going with this, right? Blessing, opportunity. That's where your second blessing lies. And I'm telling us that because as we get into the scriptures in a little while, we're going to talk about the second Passover. And in the first Passover, all males shall appear and none empty. That's the commandment. But what happens in the second Passover? That was the people who couldn't make it to the Passover when the opportunity first presented itself. And as a result, now when you got your second opportunity, I'll say the way I put it, right? Now that you got your second, what'd you do with your second opportunity? Tell me how you thought about it. You were like, I'm not messing this one up. I am not doing it. I learned from the mistakes of my past. I knew I couldn't make it for this one. So this is the one I need to make it for. You know what the thing is about second opportunities? That sifts out the real from the fake.
Be more careful.
Second opportunities show people who really want to serve God. Second opportunities show when people really want their blessing. You ever have a whole bunch of money and you blow it?
Yes.
Did you get it back?
No.
Took a while. Well, hey, listen, sometimes it took a while, but when you got that money back, tell me what you did.
You penny pinched.
Oh, not only did you penny pinch, you looked at everything skeptical this time. You like, all right, listen, this, that, another. People come asking, you like, well, what do you need money for? How about relationships? Sometimes we realize the mistakes we've made in past relationships, and we had to correct them in future relationships. And sometimes in the future relationship, the person cannot believe the type of man or woman that you are. They think you act the way you act or do the things you do. And they don't even realize that you're taking advantage of your second opportunity? How about with your child? You know, there are people who have children. There are people who understand the mistakes that they've made with their older children. And what do? They correct it with the younger children. And when that happens, what happens with the older children, right? Older children are like, man, you getting old. You getting soft. I can't believe you would have never let me get away with X, Y, or Z. But then what ends up happening? The younger child appreciates it because of what? The second opportunity. People see you as a better parent. People see you as a better friend. God sees you as a better servant because he saw that you took advantage of your second opportunity. He understood that you won't let this opportunity pass you by. You became older, you became wiser. How many of us are taking advantage of our second opportunity to serve God? How many? I'm telling you this because sometimes we don't know when our next opportunity will come, but we do know that we need to prepare ourselves for the next opportunity. Sometimes, brothers and sisters, we're dealing with things where we don't even realize the opportunity is there. How many people believe that your opportunity will just come? You know what makes it an opportunity? Because it's not regularly occurring. Because it's not like you can just go and be like, yeah, it'll be there. Is life an opportunity?
Yes.
Is time an opportunity?
Yes.
Is happiness an opportunity?
Pain.
Is the Shabbat an opportunity?
Pain.
I'm telling y'all something. It's what we have missed along the way. The opportunity that God presents to us. The opportunities that we find in our lives, we often let go past because we didn't recognize it as an opportunity. We saw it as an option. The opportunity is your blessing. The option can be your blessing, but it also can be your curse. We don't consider an opportunity like take the opportunity to punch a wall, right? Be like, what's happening right now? It's not an opportunity. But to go outside, is that an opportunity? Yeah, sure it is. It's a nice day outside. We've been waiting for weather like this, right? But what if it was raining? You had the opportunity to go outside while it was bright and sunny outside, but now you waited, and as a result, what happened? It started raining. Now, unless you like just walking around in the rain and getting wet, listen, you let your opportunity what? Pass you by. Sometimes with your blessing, you allow your blessing to pass you by when you don't take the opportunity to learn. I need a teacher. You need a teacher. You need a teacher. You need a teacher. We all need somebody to teach us. You cannot think that you ever stop learning. And when you stop learning, what do you let pass you? Your opportunity. Your opportunity passes you. Your blessing passes you. Now, how many of us have had good teachers? All right, let's do this. How many of us have had bad teachers? You know, when it's that bad teacher, it was just like, who is this guy right now? Right? What am I learning? When you got a good teacher, When you have somebody who's going to teach you, who's going to learn, who's going to help you learn, who's going to invest their time in you, why are you not taking advantage of that fact? I'm going to tell you why. Because you think that person will always be there. You think they'll always want to teach you. And so as the person, you'd be like, yo, let me get $1. Okay. Yo, let me get $1. Okay. Yo, let me get $1. Okay. Listen, I need to put $1 in this meter before the ticket guy comes up the street, and there he goes. Yo, let me get $1. I ain't got it. What do you mean you ain't got it? I'm sorry, I don't have it. You don't have $1? No, I don't. I'm sorry. It happens sometimes, right? Now you got a ticket for $60. $1, $60. But what happened? You always went to the well. You always thought, yeah, this will be fine. I'll do this like this. There won't be an issue. I'll do it like that. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, no. Oh, no. You took advantage of your opportunity because all you wanted was $1. You knew you could go get it. You took advantage of your blessing. And I'm telling you this because when we have Passover, when we have people who say that we can't observe Passover, you can only do Passover 2 times in a year. When's the first time? What date is that? The 1st of Abib, excuse me, not the 1st of Abib, the 14th of Abib, at even. When's your second opportunity? 14th of Eve, at even, right? That's it. After that, you have to wait until next year. This is how we have to do these things. I say that, brothers and sisters, and I want us to keep this in mind because Moses was given the commandments, but he wasn't given the answers when we couldn't perform the commandments, which is where we struggle today. When the people first came and they wanted to serve God, right? And they wanted to observe the Passover, but they were unclean. There goes that word unclean again, right? Why were they unclean? What were they unclean by? Dead body. Now that they were unclean by the dead body, what were they going to do? They wanted to serve God, but they couldn't. Sorry about that, brothers and sisters. You're going to have to understand that when this was happening, Moses didn't know what to do, but Moses was up in the mount for 40 days and 40 nights. The Urim and the Tumim were already created. They had a high priest. All of that was going on. So how come Moses didn't know the answer to this question? Why should we be held back from keeping the Passover of the Lord? It shows us in our scriptures that no matter how righteous you are and no matter how close to God you are, you do not always have the answers. No matter how much God has blessed you with, sometimes we will be at a loss to understand what God wants us to do or what God does not want us to do. Every other day, if you miss last Shabbat, what happens? You missed the Shabbat. You got to wait for the next Shabbat. But what happens when you miss Yom Kippur? You're out. That's it. No Yom Kippur? See you next year. Hopefully you do it. Now, listen, I missed at least 18. At least 18. Ain't no right, but ain't no makeup opportunity. Right. It ain't like, oh, you know what? Let me hit the rewind button. Right. Okay, right. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. But when they did that, God made a provision. God said, I want them to observe the Passover. But what did we have to do? You had to make sure, he said, but for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, you still got to eat unleavened bread. Am I right or wrong? You still have to eat your bitter herbs. But the lamb on the second day. So what does that mean? Just because you're not clean, just because you're not ready, is the day still holy? Yeah. So in your uncleanness, you got to keep the Passover. And when the second Passover comes, you got to keep it again. You got to do it 2 times. So that's why I say to us, I'm like, let us reason together. Stop getting rid of the laws of the Most High God. There's no way you can do that. The day remains holy. The first day of Chag Matzot, the 7th day of Chag Matzot. That's how it goes. What do you think is going to happen as time goes on? We're going to be taking out bits and pieces here and there. Next thing you know, what are we going to be doing? Nothing. How many people know that there's a second Passover? Let's open up our books. Let's get to some things. Let's open up the book of Leviticus chapter 23 verse. Leviticus chapter 23 first. And we're not going to read about the Sabbath, but we're going to jump down. I'm going to start at verse 4. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 4 states, these are the appointed seasons of Yahweh, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their appointed season. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at dusk, Bein Ha'arba'im, is Yahweh's Passover. What's the word for Passover in Hebrew? Pesach, right? Pesach. And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto Yahweh. 7 days ye shall eat unleavened bread, which is what we're doing in this time. And the first day ye shall have a holy convocation. Ye shall do no manner of servile work, and ye shall bring an offering made by fire unto Yahweh 7 days. And the 7th day is a holy convocation. You shall do no manner of servile work. First day, 7th day. Now tell us this, because if you're not aware of Leviticus 23, if you're not aware of the days that the Most High God called out, if you're not aware of how to do these different things, what's going to end up happening is these days aren't going to be important to you, because all that's being pushed is Shabbat, 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 Shabbat. What are the holy days other than the Shabbat? Of course. Here we have it. The first day and the 7th day. What's the name of tomorrow? How don't you know the name of it? You got to know that there's a difference between the name of the 7th day of the week and the name of the holy days that the Most High God calls out. The 7th day of the feast is one name. The Shabbat is another day. Went to work. Did your manager tell you this? You got another day that you have to observe? Happens all the time. At what point do I got to justify my quote unquote religion to you? I'm telling you that these are the days that I observe. What's the name of it? The reason why some people struggle is because you don't know the name of your day. You need to know the name of your day. What is it? I'm just going to tell you right now. If you go Yom Hashvi Chag Matzot, they're going to be like, what? Okay. Listen, it's okay because that's the name of it. Sometimes, listen, I told my supervisor one time, this was years ago, I was like, I'll give you the name, and then I wrote it down on the slip. I was like, this is the Hebrew. I don't know if you want to translate it. He was like, all right. When he come back, he did his homework, came back. He's like, are you Jewish? First thing, listen, whatever we need to do. He heard Hebrew, so he was like, hey, this is what it is. If you don't know that the name of your day is the 7th day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, well, that's a pretty long name there. That's how it goes, right? You got to know that the name of your holy day is the feast of the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Passover lasts for 7 days. No, Passover doesn't last for 7 days. Passover is actually like 15, 20 minutes, if even that long. After the slaying of the lamb and all that other stuff, now we straight into the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Oh, well, when does it fall? I tell people this all the time. Don't try to do me like that. Because when you say it falls on the 25th of December, whatever your foolishness day is, that could be on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. Now, all of a sudden, when I have my days, if it don't fall on Saturday, it ain't right. Nah, that's not how that go. That's not how we live. That's not how we observe. My days can fall on any other day of the week as well. We are not Saturday observant religion. Oh, well, long as I give you Saturday, that's it. No, we have special days also.
Just like you.
Your days move, my days move. Just because you can't keep up with our calendar, that's a different thing. Well, I'm just trying to understand because I know the other guy, he's Jewish. That's the problem. That's the problem. I did not tell you I was Jewish. Not only do you not question him, you accept it for what it is. You accept it for what it is because you still don't see me as a God-fearing man. They still don't see you as a God-fearing woman. They see you as doing something after a fashion, that you're still following somebody and that you can't really explain what you do. And then when you correct them, they have the nerve to get upset with you. Like, well, I'm not trying to talk about your religion. Here we go again. I keep saying to you, it's not a religion. Well, what do you call it? It's my nationality. Well, religion, nationality, it's all the same. No, it's not. That's why we're having this long conversation. Well, I don't want you to get so angry. Okay, then stop calling it a religion. We can move forward. I'm telling you that as we build and as we grow, then they'll know. Well, what other days do you have? Do you want me to give you the whole year? I can give you the whole year. I'll give it to you right now. Oh, well, I want the whole year. Okay, so as the days come up, that's what's happening. I got another day coming up in about 7 weeks. Right? June 5th. When that comes up, I'm going to be doing it again. Again? You're going to need more? Yes, this is what I do. And listen, I tell them all the time. When I'm here on President's Day, it ain't an issue. When I'm here on Memorial Day, it ain't an issue. When I'm here on the 4th of July, it ain't an issue. But when I need a day off for my holy day, for my season, now it's like I need to explain 62 different things. Oh, that's interesting. What do you do on your day? Oh, we eat unleavened bread. We eat lamb. Y'all eat lamb? Yeah, we do. Use a lot of natural products. Make all our own jelly. Y'all make your own jelly? That's interesting. Yeah, make our own jelly. People do stuff like that. My wife, she made some toothpaste this year. Interesting. She got some twerking to it to do, but that was different, right? I said, but I appreciate her jelly. Oh, okay. Well, if you want credibility amongst the nations, you must carry yourself credible before God. You trying to get the people to respect you. How come you don't have God's respect before you? You're not interested in God respecting you. You're not interested in God in the way he thinks about the way you carry yourself and the things you do and the different things that you do of how people perceive you. So, as a result, how do we find ourselves? Okay, look, you want it? Shabbat shalom. Do you need a note from my spiritual leader? Oh, you got a spiritual leader? Golly, what is that supposed to mean? When somebody asks you if you got a spiritual leader, how do you answer that question? Like, so So what are the different type of things? But guess what? Guess what? We've created this situation. Us. We've done it because we have not held ourselves as spiritual beings. We have not carried ourselves in such a way that when people see us, they look to us for guidance and they believe that we are the people of the book. We've allowed for people to dictate who we are, how we name ourselves, and we tried to blend in for so long. You know, nobody likes being an outcast, right? So we tried to blend in for so long that we blended into the point that when it's time to be different, we don't know how to be different.
We're afraid to be different.
And so when they read this book, what's the next thing they ask you? They're like, you follow all that stuff in there? How do I answer that question? He's like, if I just brought this up to you, why do you think that I not follow it? Well, you know, I just didn't. Hey. So you know me. Sometimes my mouth, it takes me there. I'm like, so this whole beard right here, what is that? It's like, nothing, none of that, not at all, not a minute. Want to have a religious conversation with me? No. All right, let's hold on. I'm telling us that because in order for you to gain respect, they need to see consistency from all of us, not just from me. They need to see that not only am I missing work, but you're missing work, you're missing work, you're missing work, you're missing work, right? They need to see our kids doing what we do. And they need to see that, yeah, there's times where we may dress different, but just because we dress different, that doesn't change who we are to our core. I still eat a certain way. I still talk a certain way. I still do certain things. Let me read some more of this chapter. Leviticus 23. Did this thing cut off for me? No. I'm done with Leviticus 23. I read to verse 8, right? I read to verse 7. Verse 8, and ye shall bring an offering made by fire unto Yahweh 7 days. And the seventh day is a holy convocation. You shall do no manner of servile work. There's importance in this verse. What is the offering made by fire? Why are we bringing it 7 days? I'm telling you that the God that we serve, he tells us exactly what we want. He tells us exactly how he wants us to do it. The offering made by fire is like, listen, and guess what? Just because you're eating unleavened, I still want something. Mm-hmm. Bring my offering to me. Mm-hmm. Does it specify the offering? Numbers 28 gets a little bit into it. 28 or 29. I believe it's 28. But what I'm telling you here is, no matter what's happening, we always had to make sure we had something for God. Why are we bringing another offering before God? We did that on the first day. Okay? The priest has to give something to God a little bit later on. This is why. And you're going to see something in a little while, because when we get to what our forefathers did, when you read about the amount of offerings they brought up, you're going to be sitting there like, oh, is there ever an end to this? So imagine 30,000 of anything. Okay, if you had 30,000 feathers, you'd be like, what's all these feathers doing here? Let's jump to the book of Numbers, chapter 9. Get us through these lessons. And we're going to start in the first verse. In Numbers chapter 9, verse 1 reads, Hallelujah. And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe in the wilderness of Sinai in the first month of the second year after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, let the children of Israel keep the Passover in its appointed season. Okay, so now, where was the second Passover kept? Yeah, I'm sure y'all all just want to yell out the wilderness of Sinai, right? Because we just read that, right? In the second year, right? Here we have what's happening here, that they were still in the wilderness and they were still commanded to keep the Passover. And it says in verse 3, and the 14th day of this month at dusk, you shall keep it in its appointed season, according to all the statutes of it, and according to all the ordinances thereof shall ye keep it. And Moshe spoke unto the children of Israel that they should keep the Passover. Okay. So, why does Moses have to tell the people to keep Passover?
Because it's a memorial for freedom in Egypt.
Yeah, but he told them already, right?
Yeah, some golden.
We did it 2 years ago.
Right. We slept.
You heard that?
Yeah.
You heard what he said?
Constantly slip.
We slept.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we were out in the wilderness and everybody was doing what they had to do. And they had to be reminded that this is the time of year that we keep Passover. Is that us in these days and times? Right. It's a time like somebody got to remind you that today is Passover. Yeah, it happens. It happens. Listen. Do we know our people? People living life.
Right.
People are living life. Right. There's no outside distractions here, right. But Moses had to speak to the children of Israel and tell them, keep the Passover. Right. Now, when you make your bread, don't knead your dough. That's why the weeks leading up to what we do, we talk about Passover. I have to teach it. I have to tell you, this is how you get rid of the leavening. This is how you make your unleavened bread. This is how you got to read your ingredients. This is not the time of year for you to go out and buy food because you don't know what's in there. How much, the vanilla extract, right? All extracts. What's in all extracts? Alcohol. How you get alcohol? Fermentation. It can't be considered an extract unless it has a certain amount of alcohol. That's what defines it. So, when you get your French vanilla latte, brothers and sisters, it's like, golly, Maury does it every year. Here we go. When you get your French vanilla latte, where's the vanilla coming from? I'm not telling you not to drink coffee. Listen, that's not the understanding of Shomray Hab'reet. You can't have a bean, you can't have a legume. However, if you got French vanilla, I'm telling you, you better read the ingredients. You know how much vanilla costs? You think they got fresh beans in your coffee?
Yeah, we got imitation.
Right.
Imitation.
What's going on at $50 cup of coffee? I know you ain't doing it, right? I know you ain't doing it. Gotta look at it. This is too much. It's never too much to be disciplined in the law of God. That's why we tell you not to go out. I'm instructing you, not because I want to say I told you what to do. I'm telling you for your own life. Stay away from eating out to the best of your ability. Let it be far and in between. It's only 7 days. It's only 7 days. It'll be all right. Sit down, looking at your ice cream. Let's see over here. I'll be walking through the supermarket. What's in that ice cream? Extract after extract after extract. And what do we like? Vanilla ice cream, right? Cherry vanilla, something. What you gonna do? How does it go? It is what it is. Sometimes you have to be taught. Sometimes you have to be reminded. Moses had to remind the people. Verse 5. And they kept the Passover in the first month on the 14th day of the month at dusk. What's the Hebrew word for dusk again? 2 words. That phrase, Bain Ha'arbaim. Don't forget your Hebrew. Bain Ha'arbaim, dusk. In the wilderness of Sinai, according to all that Yahweh commanded Moshe, so did the children of Israel. Verse 6. But there were certain men who were unclean by the dead body of a man, so that they could not keep the Passover on that day. And they came before Moshe and before Aharon on that day. Okay. So when you're unclean by a dead body, how long are you unclean for?
7 days.
7 days. You got to clean yourself on the third day and also on the 7th day. So however this happened that they ran into dead bodies, because it can happen, right? We don't know if somebody in their family died. We don't know if they was out warring. We don't know if they came by a dead body. Somebody died by them suddenly. Any of those things could have happened. But what's the focus here? Are we supposed to be clean on Passover? Yes. You're supposed to be clean for the holy day. They didn't go and was like, well, Moses don't know, so no harm, no foul. When they were unclean, what did they do? They went and asked Moses. They were like, hey, listen, I'm unclean by a dead body, and I can't keep the Passover. What can I do? What's the difference about the hearts of these men?
They were willing to keep it.
They were willing to keep it. They were eager to keep it. They didn't want to be left out. You know what I got in captivity right now? You know the type of Israelites we got in captivity right now?
Wow,
All right. You know why I didn't make Passover? I'm unclean. Okay, well, you're unclean. Why are you unclean? Did you prepare yourself? Are you trying to be clean? I'm going to show you something about this unclean thing in a minute when we get into Second Chronicles. But what are you doing to prepare yourself? This dead body of a man, to the males, it was important to them. Important to them to keep the Passover of the Most High God. How important is it to you? I'm telling you, there's some people, they're like, no, I'm good. I'm just chilling in my house. What? That's how you know that this wasn't a day of staying in your house. This shows you right here. Because if it was a day, they'd be like, all right, I can't make it out there, but I'll clean the lamb. You can't clean it, but I'll kill the lamb at my house and we'll have it there and it'll be me and my family. They wouldn't have cared about being unclean. This ain't got nothing to do with going down to Jerusalem. You see the scriptures here? Verse 6. Highlight it. Remember it. They were unclean, but they had to go out to the place of worship and they couldn't make it out. They couldn't eat the Passover lamb. They couldn't do it because they were by the dead body.
That showed how important that day was to them.
And we have to know how important it has to become to us, especially the men. Us. It has to be important to us. The sisters might not be able to make it, but brothers, we got to be there. Verse 7 states, and those men said unto him, we are unclean by the dead body of a man, wherefore are we to be kept back, so as not to bring the offering of Yahweh in its appointed season among the children of Israel. And Moshe said unto them, stay ye, that I may hear what Yahweh will command concerning you. Do we understand that? Moses ain't got the answer. Moses doesn't understand. Why? Because, listen, there's a reality. No one person has all the answers. You can't understand. It's like, listen, sometimes you're listening to people, and I want y'all to understand this. This is the thing about learning and growing in knowledge. Sometimes you're listening to people, and you're like, yeah, I never thought about it like that. Right. Now, you got some people who be like, you're supposed to be the spiritual leader. You never thought about it like that? I take you back to the scriptures. I never thought about it like that. You make a solid point. Why should these men be held back because of the dead body of a man? You know how simple it could be for you to touch a dead body? Go into a room with a dead body? Deal with death?
Okay.
If you work in a hospital, if you work as an ambulance, if you work in a morgue or around a cemetery, doesn't the Jackie Robinson highway, like the highway over here in New York City, doesn't that go through a cemetery? You see the cemetery, the tombstones on one side and on the other. What is that about? When you walk on a grave, what is that? You become unclean. All those things are there. I'm telling us these things because now Moses had to sit down and think about it. And he's like, well, does God want these people, want these men to miss Passover when that happens? And what should I do? Let me go and ask God. What's my point here for everyone here and everyone listening?
Second opportunity.
Not only do you have a second opportunity, but don't be afraid to go back and meditate on what you thought was right. The arrogant person here, I can see them saying, well, if you're out, you're out. Oh, well, for you. You should always want people to serve God. Here, he's like, let me go ask the Most High. And let's see what the Most High has to say. Verse 9. And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying, speak unto the children of Israel. If any man of you or of your generation shall be unclean by reason of a dead body, or be in a journey afar off, yet he shall keep the Passover unto Yahweh. In the second month, on the 14th day, at dusk, they shall keep it. They shall eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. They shall leave none of it unto the morning, nor break a bone thereof. According to all the statute of the Passover, they shall keep it. But, verse 13, but, and this is a big but, brothers and sisters, the man that is clean and is not on a journey and forbears to keep the Passover, that soul shall be cut off from his people, because he brought not the offering of Yahweh in its appointed season. That man shall bear his sin. Wait a minute. So that means when God expects something from you, he don't want no excuses from you. You're not unclean. You're not on a journey. There was nothing preventing you. That's why I say for us as men, there's no such thing as lazy souls. That's why I say for us as men, you can't pull out what God has designated for you. And I'm telling you that this has nothing to do with women. Don't worry about what they're doing and how things are happening, because when we got to this time, guess where all the men were? Down in Jerusalem. All the men had to converge on Jerusalem. You couldn't bring the whole nation into Jerusalem, right? Try to bring the whole nation into Jerusalem. Everybody ain't getting in. So we had to leave our wives at home. And God said, don't worry about it. I'll protect your borders. But how many people don't serve God because they feel that they're tired? How many people don't serve God because they feel they need a break? Do we know them? Don't worry about it. I'll answer for y'all. We know who they are. We seen them. We met them. We did all of those different things. If you're clean and you're not on a journey and you forbear, oh no. What about the person who refuses to sanctify themselves? Are there people who just refuse to sanctify themselves so they can use it as an excuse not to come and serve God? Of course there is. God is saying that person that forbears shall be cut off. But God always makes a provision for his people. Just because you can't observe the Passover this time doesn't mean you can't preserve it later. Does God always leave us a gift?
Amen.
Do you remember the daughters of Zelophehad?
Amen.
When the daughters of Zelophehad, it was time for inheritance
Mm-hmm.
for the children of Israel.
Right.
But who does inheritance run through? The man.
Right.
Women don't get inheritance in our nation. Men get inheritance. And so when it came time for their father's lot, Zelophehad, what happened to him? He died. And so he didn't have a portion. What happened with those daughters? What did they come with? Matter of fact, let's go there. Should be Numbers 27. Because the daughters of Zelophehad, they were like, well, what about us? The same way these men were like, I'm unclean, but why can't I keep the Passover? Well, our father made it out here, and these daughters need to live somewhere. So how come we don't get inheritance? It reads in Numbers chapter 27, verse 1, hallelujah. Then drew near the daughters of Zelophehad, the son of Hepher, the son of Gilad, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, of the families of Manasseh, the son of Yosef. And these are the names of his daughters, Mahlah, Noah, and Hoglah, and Milcah, and Tirzah. And they stood before Moshe and before Eleazar the priest, and before the princes, and all the congregation at the door of the tent of meeting, saying, our father died in the wilderness, and he was not among the company of them that gathered themselves together against Jehovah and the company of Korah, but he died in his own sin, and he had no sons. Why should the name of our father be done away from among his family? Because he had no son? Give unto us a possession among the brethren of our father. And Moshe brought their cause before Yahweh. Do we see who Moshe was? Do we see how the type of man that he did? He was not a person that just because somebody came to him with some information, he jumped and made a snap decision. They understood what the law was. They understood how things happened, but he always went before the Most High. What do I teach here often at Shomray Hab'reet? How do you know a man of God? Because he has the name of the Most High in his mouth. That's how you know a man of God. Because he has the name of the Most High in his mouth. He's seen what's going on here, and he didn't go and he was like, you know what? I guess y'all out. Y'all gonna have to figure it out. He said, that makes sense. What if there's other people around here who their father died, they didn't have any son? Because if their father was alive when the inheritance was split up, they'd have some place to live, right? But they're not going to live in the wilderness for the rest of their lives. Where the daughters of Zelophehad going to live? Verse 6. And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying, the daughters of Zelophehad speak right. Thou shalt surely give them a possession of inheritance among their father's brethren, and thou shalt cause the inheritance of their father to pass unto them. Oh my goodness, what's going on here? God isn't forgetting anybody.
That's right.
God always provides a way from you. If you want to do the right thing, God will make a way. Why do you think when we read prophecy, why do you think when we read our scriptures that the Most High God says, don't let the eunuch say, I am a dry tree? How can you say something like that? How does it? I'll give them an inheritance that is above sons and daughters. Does it say that? Book of Isaiah. Telling y'all something here. So when that happens, we know that God always provides a way for his people, even when we can't see it. The daughters of Zelophehad, it happened here. I want you to pass his inheritance unto his daughters. Oh, what's the provision? once you do it, just so your daughters know, whoever you marry, the inheritance then passes to them. Right? So, I know we don't like it. Sometimes you inherit your father's riches. But just know that your wealth keeps continuing to change hands. It says in verse 9, and if ye have no daughter, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his brethren. And if he have no brethren, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his father's brethren. It keeps passing through the family. And if his father have no brethren, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his kinsman that is next to him of his family, and he shall possess it. And it shall be unto the children of Israel a statute of judgment, as Yahweh commanded Moshe. And I'm sure there's somebody who's reading right now and they're like, but what about his wife, Moray? That's a lesson for another day. We might be here for a while. But what I am saying here is, and no, his wife is not left out, just in case y'all saying, is that what he's implying here? The daughters of Zelophehad didn't get left out. The men who are unclean didn't get left out. The eunuch didn't get left out. The one who didn't have children didn't get left out. But what's the common denominator amongst all these people? The common denominator is all of them wanted to do the law. There was not one of them that dealt with this thing in such a way that they were like, you know what? I don't really want to do this anyway. God created the way. And the only way he created the only way that the way was created was because the people asked. When is the last time you asked somebody advice on how to keep the law? Or did you just say, I can't keep Shabbat? Right. Did you just say, I can't keep Passover? Right. Did you just say, I can't keep holy days? I tell people this all the time. I talk about fringes a lot. So, why don't you wear fringes? Well, you know, it's the hemming and hawing that gets started. Sister, why do you wear pants? Well, why do you believe that there's a Messiah who came to die for our sins? You know, I got to be specific these days because there's people playing games now. Oh, no, I didn't say Messiah. As you know, we all believe in a Messiah. Stop it. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Moses, the Messiah. I'm not talking about Samson, the Messiah. I'm talking about you saying that there was a Messiah who came to fulfill the covenant that God gave to Abraham and all the promises of the Old Testament. I'm talking about that. When you talk about that alleged Messiah, who are we talking about right now? There's only one place where you find that. There's only one person I'm describing. And he looks a certain way. God is showing us here that when we desire to do that which is right before him, when we desire to do it, he will show us the way. I asked this question earlier, and I'm going to add a little bit more to it. I talked to us earlier about us fighting for our blessing, right? Okay. But do we really fight for our blessing? What do you have to do to fight for your blessing? You personally, or you. I'll set it off. Because I got to fight for my blessing too. I'll set it off. A lot of times when I got to fight for my blessing, I need to look directly in the mirror. And I'm not afraid to say it. And I'm not afraid of people using the information against me. Because a lot of the things that I hold myself back from is because I haven't had the discipline to ensure that I get the blessing the way I want the blessing. Sometimes the blessing is waiting on my doorstep. But sometimes I got to go up the street to get my blessing. Sometimes I got to go speak to a few people. Sometimes the blessing that I'm working on is not a blessing for today. It's not a blessing for tomorrow. It's not a blessing for next week. It's not a blessing for next month. But the blessing is coming in 3 years. Not only do you have to speak it into existence, you got to make sure that you maintain it until you get it. What's a 9-month blessing?
A baby.
But the 9 months within there, is there certain things as a man you have to do, and that as a woman she has to do? There's a certain way you got to handle that. There's a certain way you got to carry it. If not, what can happen? A lot of bad things can happen, right? Sit down as a man. Look, I need for you to eat right. I need for you to think right. I don't need for you to be stressed out. Some women are put on bed rest after 6 months. It's like, you're staying in this hospital until, right? I was watching a show or something like that. I was like, oh my goodness, that has to be horrible. If you want that child, this is what's going to happen. Did Jacob have to fight for his blessing?
Okay.
Of course he did. Literally. And he was going to meet his brother who wanted to kill him. What did he get when he fought for his blessing?
New name.
Blessing. Name. Bless his own blessings. That's right.
He became known as Israel.
Amen.
That we carry till this day.
That's correct. Surname.
Did David have to fight for his blessing? What was his blessing? Shucks. His life.
His life. Forget love.
He had to fight for it without fighting.
Right.
His kingship.
Yes.
Samuel had to anoint him, right?
That's right.
And from the very gate, his own family didn't look at him as the future king.
Nope.
His father didn't see him as a king. His brothers didn't see him as a king. The nation was sitting there looking at him. Saul brought him in. Who was David known as to Saul? He's the kid who comes in, who sings and plays the harp.
That's it.
It's the future king.
Yeah,
Yeah, all right, don't worry about it. Bring him on in. Right? So he was. But he was also the person who kept Saul calm.
Soothe them.
I always find it funny that David was responsible for keeping Saul calm, but David had a temper. When you read the history of David, he had a temper. And that's probably from people constantly poking, prodding, knocking, pushing at him. To anybody, you can only be calm for but so long before you finally break, right? Was there anybody else? How about Isaac? Did he have to fight for his blessing? Say, remember, fighting is not always with hands.
I got it.
The well.
The wells. The wells, yeah, listen. How many folds was he blessed in that year? 100. 100 fold. But they kept taking his wells from him, right?
Okay.
You get the well?
Got
Somebody come, it's our well.
Right.
All right, you go, no problem. Move on to the next one. I'm telling you, you see more of Jacob and Isaac than we think. Isaac goes to the next well. What the Philistines do? They come and take that well. He moved on. That sounds like the passive, right? Behavior that we don't like from people. That we sitting there, it's like, you took the well. You gonna let him take that well? You gonna take that one? You gonna let him do that? What you gonna do, Isaac? So I was like, all right, he went to the next well. How many wells did he have to dig up? 7. I'm sure his servants is like, yo, Isaac, I'm gonna follow you and I love you, but we just gonna keep giving the Philistines. It wasn't until the 7th well that the Philistines was like, all right. Now, if we see that in these days and times, what do we see? What do we think about that person who keeps giving people stuff? Must be a sucker. Must be a chump. Oh. But what was the difference with Isaac? Which was the same thing with Jacob. What was the difference? He knew that God was going to keep blessing him. He wasn't even worried about it. This is what you... Listen, I tell people, I'm not telling you to give away your stuff, but how much is your shirt really worth? How much is your laptop, your iPad, your phone? How much is this really worth? Can God replace this in an instant?
Yes.
He can replace it in an instant. But you got to be able to think above it. You can't be afraid to move. Sometimes you're trying to plant yourself in ingrowable soil. Ingrowable word? And soil in which you can't grow. Right. I understand what I'm saying, right? Some of these things that we look at, our forefathers, when we see it, Abraham wasn't a fighter. Not that he didn't know how to fight. I know he went and got Lot, his nephew. But when you see about Abraham going through stuff, was he like, oh, let's do this, let's do that? David was a fighter. Undoubtedly. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they used reasoning. They used finesse to move along in life. And I'm saying these things because for Isaac, when you look at how Isaac dealt with the wells, then when you see Jacob, you're kind of like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. It takes a while because a lot of times we know how we would do. Nah, this is mine. Get off my stuff, right? How it go?
Right.
What we gonna do about this?
Right.
However, I'm telling us as we build and grow, because when there's the second blessing, you realize that the first blessing is temporary, but there's another blessing right behind it. It's temporary, but there's another blessing behind it.
Right.
I say that to say, because brothers and sisters, if we focus more on keeping commandments than eliminating them, we can get closer to God. Just stop eliminating commandments. Don't take your fringes off. Don't take your culture off. Come to service in your culture. Come to service in your fringes. Wear your turban. Wear your kippah. I'm telling you, love your brother. Love your sister. Don't stop eating matzo. I hate eating those matzo. You know, there's some people who they came out for the feast and they ate unleavened bread.
Right.
But they went home and started eating leavening again. What do you think you did? You negated everything that you thought you were doing for God. And now you're trying to figure out how you're going to do things. Speaking of which, we still got our matzo, right? No, okay. You just ain't going to take it out. It's like, this one, she's fighting the cracker thing, but that's all right. We'll get there. Brothers and sisters, let's turn our books to Second Chronicles Chapter 30. Okay. Second Chronicles Chapter 30, verse 1. Hallelujah. And Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh that they should come to the house of Yahweh at Jerusalem to keep the Passover unto Yahweh, the God of Israel. Why? I got to write a letter to you. Josh, I need to mail you a letter, bro. I'm just asking. All right, what are we doing right now? I got to give you a text saying, come to the feast. But did you get a text?
Yeah.
Did you get a text?
Yeah.
Listen, it is what it is. Sometimes you got to remind Israel. Not that I don't think that you're going to do it, but sometimes we have to send invites to one another. Don't be mad at the invite. The reality is the invite is there as a reminder to you that we will be here serving God. This is nothing new. You didn't have to text me. I know tomorrow's the holy day.
Right.
And you still forget.
Well,
I'm not trying to see you.
what are we doing right now? You can see it in the scriptures. He had to remind them, and they're in the land. They got the Hebrew names that we're all looking for. They have a temple. They know that we're supposed to do this, right? Why do you think he said he wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh? Why do you think that? Where's Manasseh located? Jerusalem's in the south. Manasseh is on the east. Wait for it. Remember, Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh.
Right.
They're all the way over there. But what was happening over there? That is he wrote letters to them also. How about you know how far we were getting away? There's certain people sometimes where you have to be like, look, I need to go over there and have a personal conversation with them. And this is why. To keep the Passover, but the Torah says that we all males shall appear in Jerusalem 3 times in a year. Number 4 me empty. Right? So why does this need to happen? Verse 2. For the king had taken counsel and his princes and all the congregation to keep the Passover in the 2nd month. Whoa, pump the brakes. What happened in the 1st month? What was going on in Abib? That's what I'm trying to tell y'all. Don't think that because if we were in Israel, people would be doing the right thing. The reality of the situation is the reason why we got kicked off the land of Israel is because we weren't doing the right thing. That's why we got kicked off. That's why we find ourselves where we are now. So the king, he had to take counsel. That means the king didn't do it in the 1st month either. And there had to be people around him who were like, hey, let's do this. And let's do this together. And guess what? If we're going to do this, let's make sure we send out letters and we invite everybody on out.
Leave no man behind.
They had to remind the congregation in Jerusalem. Now, if the people in Jerusalem don't know what to do,
There's a problem.
you gotta listen. We got far away from God.
Right. That's what
Far away. I'm asking her this, and I keep going because we think that this conversation is new about we can't keep the Passover. Do we honestly believe that this is a new conversation?
No.
There's nothing new about this.
That's right. True.
And so when I tell people, I know I speak forceful sometimes. When I tell people about keeping the Passover and don't let people deceive you and things of that nature, I'm telling you that because there are people who don't want you to be an Israelite. There are people who will ask you, why are you calling yourself an Israelite? There are people who don't want you to change your name. And when they find out you were born with that name and you were born at that name, they're like, well, what else do you want me to call you? Because that name's a little too hard for me to pronounce.
Right.
Wait a minute. No. You can do it.
Yeah.
You just don't want to do it.
That's right.
I'm telling you here that these people, they were like, hey, listen, these are people who wanted to get back to God. Let's keep the Passover in the 2nd month. Verse 3, for they could not keep it at that time because the priests had not sanctified themselves in sufficient number. Neither had the people gathered themselves together to Jerusalem. What were the priests doing? You know, as a priest, it makes you ask the question. You're like, your whole job is to know this. What are you doing right now? You didn't sanctify yourself. If there's anybody who should be sanctified, who should be sanctified? The priest. He said, man, you like, you didn't sanctify yourself in sufficient number. The people didn't gather themselves together to Jerusalem. So what exactly were y'all doing? I'm going to tell you. They were at work. They were at the park. They were doing everything other than what God told them to do.
Pulling a Hophni and Phinehas.
Pulling a Hophni and Phinehas.
I just got that.
The priests didn't sanctify themselves. You understand how important it is to be clean now? In sufficient number. There needed to be enough priests so we could hold this service the right way.
Right, proper. Right.
Verse 4. And the thing was right in the eyes of the king and of all the congregation. Keep that in mind. Verse 5. So they established a decree to make proclamation throughout all Israel, from Be'er Shavah even to Dan, that they should come to keep the Passover unto Yahweh, the God of Israel, at Jerusalem, for they had not kept it in great numbers, according as it is written. So the post went with letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, and according to the commandment of the king, saying, Ye children of Israel, turn back unto Yahweh, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Yisrael, that he may return to the remnant that are escaped of you out of the hand of the kings of Assyria. Highlight that part. Don't tell me that this ain't a season of redemption.
Right.
Don't tell me that this ain't a season of salvation. This is what they said. They said, do this commandment in particular so that God can return unto you. That's how I'm telling you how important that this holy day is to us. He said, so that he can return to you. The remnant that have escaped out of the king. We just got out of captivity. We need to do this so that God can return to us. I'm sending you this letter so you can understand what you need to do. Communicating. Read it. God is saying, the King Hezekiah is telling us, turn back to God.
Here's your second opportunity.
Not only is it your second opportunity, this is your second blessing. You made it back. But what does verse 7 say? What does verse 7 say? And be not ye like your fathers and like your brethren who acted treacherously against Yahweh, the God of their fathers, so that he delivered them to be an astonishment as ye see. It should be an astonishing thing that we don't keep Passover. This should be weird to us. Like, wait a minute, you don't keep Passover? This is what got us right. You don't know your history. You don't understand what put us in this place. Verse 8, now be ye not stiff-necked as your fathers were, but yield yourselves unto Yahweh and enter into his sanctuary, which he has sanctified forever, and serve your God, that his fierce anger may turn away from you. For if ye turn back unto Yahweh, your brethren and your children shall find compassion before them that led them captive, and shall come back into this land. For Yahweh, your God, is gracious and merciful, and will not turn away his face from you, if ye return unto him. Now, I'm going to ask y'all, how do y'all think this information was received? It's scrolling up now. Let me read some more. How does it sound? Don't be wicked anymore. It's what we hear now in these days and times, right? Don't be wicked anymore. Turn your ways. Stop not observing Passover. Maybe God will find a blessing for you. Does that sound like your teachers now? Does that sound like the lessons we get? So how do y'all think it? How do the people receive that now? How do you think that the people received it then?
It could have been some friction.
Some friction? I can see that. Verse 8. Now be ye not stiff-necked. Who you calling stiff-necked?
Holy brother.
Right. You stiff-necked. Who made you? Who made you the person that is supposed to tell me how right I am? Matter of fact, your priest ain't even sanctified. You talking to me about how I don't keep Passover. How come your priests ain't ready? How come they ain't clean? O king. That sound like us?
Yes. Don't tell me if they're not. Don't correct me if they're
He
not.
turned his face away from me. How about he turned his face away from you? What makes you so righteous? Matter of fact, King Hezekiah, you up here talking all this stuff. Wasn't God about to kill you a few years back? Now all of a sudden you talking to us all big, bad, and strong. Verse 10. So the post passed from city to city through the country of Ephraim and Manasseh, even unto Zebulun. But they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. Is this Israel? Is this Israel? They laughed them to scorn and mocked them. Oh, here you go. Now here you go. What's your letter? Let me tell you. Bring me in the full view. Here's go. You see this guy? This guy, right? You send him. How much money did you spend to send me this letter? Right. I'm not observing Passover. Right. Right. God is going to kill all of us, right? Oh, let me guess. He feels special now because God spared him. Let me tell you what I think of your letters. That's what we do. Laugh to scorn? Laugh to scorn. We know what that means. They were talking big stuff about him. Oh, now y'all observing Passover. All these years, y'all want to try to do something different? Really? You want me to stop doing what I'm doing to come serve God with you? Pay attention, because in every lesson, there's a blessing. Now, how do y'all think King Hezekiah felt about this? After he took the time out, he took counsel, didn't he? That's what he's supposed to do. He asked the princes, and the princes were like, yeah, this is what we should do to get back to God. Did he do that? Did we read that at the beginning? Now they laughed him to scorn. How do y'all think he feels? Sad. I'm not going to use that word, thank you. He's very upset, right? Like, wait a minute. And listen, you know what it's like to do things for people, and then they come back and you be like, I did this for you. I didn't need to do all this for me. I could do this all by myself, right? I'm telling y'all something here. Because when they did that, they didn't have to laugh him to scorn, but they wanted to prove something to him. They had something to prove to King Hezekiah. What did they want to prove to him?
They didn't have to listen to him.
Thank you. Nail on the head. I don't care if you're the king. I don't got to do what you tell me to do. I could do whatever I feel like. And matter of fact, you ain't more righteous than me. That's what's going on here. Because if you disagree with somebody, you ain't got to laugh at them. You could just be like, okay, I know you're asking me to go down to Jerusalem, but I don't feel that's the best thing I want to do this year. All right? Life goes on. But they didn't have respect for their king. And when they didn't have respect for their king, they didn't have respect for the anointed of the Most High God. And I'm telling you, no matter what people think about what you're doing, no matter who may be laughing at you and attempting to scorn you, there's a way you're supposed to hold yourself as a righteous individual regardless. It goes on to read, in verse 11. Nevertheless, divers of Asher and Manasseh and of Zebulun humbled themselves and came to Jerusalem. Why am I going to stop there? When you're starting a movement, you can't always get everybody on board. Sometimes you got to do things with the people who are willing to move. Then everybody else will fall into place. Asher, Manasseh, and Zebulun. But wait a minute. In verse 10, it said, the post passed from city to city through the country of Ephraim and Manasseh, even unto Zebulun, but they laughed them to scorn. So what does that mean? There was already two different thoughts amongst the people. Some of them in Manasseh was like, yeah, and some of them in Manasseh was like, nah. Some of them in Zebulun was like, yeah, some of them in Zebulun was like, nah. That's okay. When it's time to serve God, it's better to serve God with people who want to serve God than people who don't want to serve God. Oh, y'all getting my message?
Amen.
Do you hear me?
Okay.
I'm telling you, it's better to do it with 30 than with 1,000. If the rest of if outside of those 30, everybody else don't want to serve God, let them go about their business. Serve God with people who want to serve God. That's why I'm of the mindset. I'm like, listen, if you don't want to go out on Shabbat and you think observing Shabbat is it for you in your house, then by all means, go ahead and do it. I'm not here to talk about you. I'm not here to try to make you look bad. I'm not here to make you public enemy number one. All I know is one thing for sure. When the Most High God had Leviticus 23 recorded and he told us to have a holy convocation, he expected us to be in each other's presence. The very way that I got this congregation started was online, but it cannot stop there. The online thing, this ain't it. Holy days, virtual, it ain't it. Are we keeping ourselves healthy? Are we sanitizing the place? Are we making sure we have ourselves in a space that we're in a place where people can remain healthy? Do I spray down? Was I spraying down the place? Let's go. You see me in Virginia. Was we doing it? I ain't sprayed it once. I sprayed it like 4 times, right? First event, second event, third event. That's what we do, right? But when do we get to the point where we're back around one another again? Because every conversation we have can't be public. And I'm telling you from this here, the people who were there were people of the same family, of the same tribe, that were looking at people that were going to serve God, and they were like, why are you going out there? And why are you going out there? Oh, let me guess. I guess you're going to observe that Passover thing. You think this is going to be anything? You think this is really going to be big? But guess what? God was already looking for a remnant. Verse 9, if we remember, in the middle, and your children shall find compassion before them that led them captive, and shall come back into this land, for Yahweh your God is gracious and merciful, and will not turn his face from you if you return unto him. Do we really think God is taking us back in our houses? Think about it for a second. Even the children of Israel had to march in Egypt. They had to march out of their houses and go someplace new. How many of us own tents? When the children of Israel left Egypt, what were they now living in? Tents. That means if you didn't have one already, what'd you have to do? Build one. You had to make one. You had to find some material. You had to be that level of carpenter, right? You have to learn how to protect your stuff. How many of us have to learn how to make matzot this year? And if you're like me, no matter how much you make matzot, you got to start practicing again to make the matzot taste right, right? It's a dry matzo. People make jelly, right? Different things. You got to understand about these things. When these people got to this point, how many people look at you, see you making jelly or see you making matzo, and they're like, why are you doing that? You still looking for matzo in the bag? Or you still, I know, the cracker in the box, right? Like just go and buy it. But the cracker's a cracker. Bread is bread. Do you make bread?
There's two different things, right?
An unleavened cake. Can you make one? Do you make one? And why should you make one? I'm telling us this because as all of this is going on, they're like, y'all really going down there too. You really gonna go do this Jerusalem thing. Yeah, in verse 12. Also in Judah was the hand of God to give them one heart. And I'm going to stop right there. Also in the hand of Judah was to give them one heart. What does that mean?
They were linked to do one thing. They were together.
Gam
Agreed.
bihuda haita yad ha-Elohim. Latet lehem lev echad. One heart. Do y'all understand this? When you're intent to do the right thing, God will put the spirit of unification on you.
Okay.
You know what it's like to work with people that seem like they're impossible to work with. Why do they seem like they're impossible to work with? Because no matter what, you trying to do things together. No, this should be done like this. We'll do this like this. Blah, 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 blah. You're like, hey, listen, okay, if you do this like this, let's do this like. No, that's the wrong way. Right. We all do it. It's like, it wasn't TikTok, it was YouTube. I did this last year. I'm the expert. What happens when you find people that you can work with?
Everything is easier.
And not only is it easier, it's almost unbelievable, right?
Not talking to each other.
You're like, yo, you want me to do this like this? No, yeah, do that, blah, blah. Oh, yo, listen, look out for this. But, okay, no problem. You know what? Thank you. I didn't think about that. Right? So, well, what do you think about this? I wouldn't do it, but I don't think it will hurt either which way. You know what? Let's try it. Can you deal with people like that?
Sure.
Those are the type of people you prefer, right? Because you know what? It's not that constant clashing, clicking, this, that, another. Why did these people in Jerusalem need one heart? It was something new. They were doing it for the first time. God was keeping the people away that wouldn't allow them to achieve their goal. Oh. Sometimes God is keeping people away that won't allow you to achieve your goal.
Uncompatible.
We ain't compatible. Can't work together. God is sifting the house. God is sifting the house.
And all the lumps out.
This is the flour you need.
Okay.
You had to be with Judah to give them one heart to achieve their goal. Because guess what? If everybody came down there and certain people were laughing at them and you're trying to get work done and people were like, that ain't going to work. This ain't this done. Blah, blah, blah. You ever have people you trying to get work done and you got the sideline comedy club? I know y'all don't want to say it, but I'm here to say it.
I'm part of that club.
It's all right. Hey, listen, I tell anybody, y'all know I'm at work, I'm a supervisor, all this. I ain't mad at the music playing. I ain't mad at the joking. I ain't mad at the camaraderie. As long as you're working. And this ain't no thing of get this done in 2 minutes. But when you are laughing and joking so much that you absolutely stop and all the work comes to a standstill, and then I come along and I'm like, let's get back to work. And y'all looking at me funny? Yeah, now we're going to have to do something different. Like, listen, somebody got to be the bad guy sometimes. Like, look, y'all might be mad at me, but we will achieve. All right? We will achieve. It got to be like that sometimes.
That's leadership.
I'm telling you that when that happens, we look at people, it's like, listen, you can't have a situation where there's people who believe in keeping the Passover and there's people who don't believe in keeping the Passover. And so when that happens, sometimes when you think you're excluding yourself, God is actually excluding you. Don't be afraid to try to do that which is right when you see people are trying.
Sometimes you don't fit in because you're better than it. Sometimes we think we don't fit in because it's something wrong with us, but that's not the case all the time.
Absolutely. Sometimes, listen, sometimes the people you thought you wanted to be friends with, you realize later, nah, I didn't need to be there anyway. Right? That happens. Why? Because we grow. We grow as individuals. When you're serving God, didn't you know that there's levels of people who serve God? I ain't going to ask y'all this. I just want y'all to think about it. Think about who you were serving God with years ago. Are some of them gone? I told y'all. I told y'all. Y'all going to be like, Moray got them calling people out.
Some of us even stayed in and went higher.
Okay.
That's my point. There's levels to this. Why do you think that person went away? They gravitated away from you for a reason. And I bet you couldn't believe that they gravitated away like that. I bet you couldn't believe. You're like, yo, I know this person seeing the better side of people, right? Even though they're not activating the better side of themselves. You're like, yo, come on. Just come to service. Come down one day, blah, 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 blah. What'd they tell you? I'm going to be there soon. Oh, you heard this one? Nah, you keep doing what you do. That's good. What you're doing is good. You keep doing what you do. You know what that means, right? I'm not coming. I'm not coming. And guess what? Right. You might have thought about it. You might have been on your journey and you was like, yo, this, that, another, blah, blah. But you know what you did? You said, I got to serve God. I got to go do what I got to do for me. Right? And so sometimes God is clearing the space for you to get closer. Because that's what was happening here. Also in Judah was the hand of God to give them one heart. I want him thinking like him, and him thinking like him, and him thinking like him.
One purpose,
right?
One heart, one purpose.
I want them to fulfill what they're doing because I see they want to do the right thing. And guess what? Was we doing it in the original season? There were priests that weren't sanctified. This is the second month and all this other stuff. People laughing at me like, y'all just making stuff up. Let's read some more in the middle of 12. To do the commandment of the king and the princes by the word of Yahweh. 13. And they assembled at Jerusalem much people to keep the feast of unleavened bread. In the second month, a very great congregation. What's wrong with this? What is wrong with this verse? I'm going to teach y'all something here. What's wrong with this verse? When is the Feast of Unleavened Bread?
It's the second month. They kept it in.
The Feast of Unleavened Bread is in the first month.
Right.
They're in the second month. What are you talking about? You're going to keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Oh. So is that why they were laughing them to scorn? Because this is what people do. I'm telling you what people do. That Moray, spiritual leader guy, as much as he talk about not adding to the book, you can't keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread in the second month. There's no such thing. Matter of fact, he just taught that a second ago. If he was listening to himself, he would know that he can't do that. They didn't say, let's do this by year by year. Right. They sent letters out and it was like, let's do this in the spirit of unity and strength. We need to learn that. We need to learn how to do things in the spirit of unity and strength. Because, hey, guess what? We should have been doing this before God, but we haven't. And so now, when I read this, and it's like, he assembled much people to keep the Feast of Unleavened Bread, a very great congregation. Even though there weren't certain people there were enough people there. There were a lot of people there. And so it reads in 14, and they arose and took away the altars that were in Jerusalem. Is something wrong with that?
Yes.
And all the altars of incense, for incense, took they away and cast them into the brook Kidron. Read up on that brook. They were like, we don't even want the nonsense around us. Then they killed the Passover lamb on the 14th day of the second month, and the priests and the Levites were ashamed and sanctified themselves and brought burnt offerings into the house of Yahweh. How is this backwards? Y'all knew this was coming. Y'all sent out letters. Why did you not sanctify yourself? If you knew this was coming and y'all sat and y'all spoke to the king and everybody sat down and all of this other stuff, how come you didn't sanctify yourselves? You know why? Because you didn't think it was going to happen. You was expecting the king to fall on his face. You was expecting everyone to feel like how you feel and was like, they ain't doing it. And that ain't Torah. So you know what? I'm not doing it. And then after they seen everybody came out, after they seen everybody was like it, then they were like,
those who did read the letter,
let me go wash. I'm talking about the priest right now.
Oh, okay, right.
Let me go wash.
Right.
Let me go get my burnt offering. This is what happened here. Even they were ashamed that they didn't keep the Passover. Because why? Now they realize there are actually people who want to keep the Passover of the Most High God.
Right.
And they stood in their place after their order, according to the law of Moshe, the man of God. The priest dashed the blood, which they received of the hand of Levites. For there were many in the congregation that had not sanctified themselves. Therefore, the Levites had the charge of killing the Passover lambs for everyone that was not clean, to sanctify them unto Yahweh. Do we see how bad it's getting to worse? What's going on here? I want y'all to listen to this and think about it. We just read in verse 15 that the priests had to sanctify themselves. But now the priests are talking about they had to kill a Passover lamb for the people that weren't sanctified, that weren't clean. But you didn't sanctify yourself.
You ain't clean either, right?
You're the major part
Right.
of the Pesach offering.
Throw the whole joint out the window.
Listen. Do we understand what's good? Do y'all see what I'm saying now?
Got it. Right.
Even though the whole thing was messed up, did they still serve God? Of course they did. Even though the priest wasn't ready, the people weren't ready, and dare I state, I don't know what type of lambs they bought for us. Just sit down. It was like, yo, we doing this in the second month. This ain't the month it's supposed to be done in, right? This is supposed to be the second Passover. We doing everything. We keeping a feast of unleavened bread in the second month. You can't. The Passover, yeah, the second month. The feast of unleavened bread, no. Only thing you can do is eat unleavened bread and bitter herbs with that second Passover. But the whole thing was backwards. And it didn't matter because that's what God wanted them to do. So when I speak with force about how we should keep Passover and people say we can't keep Passover in captivity, I'm saying that because people are trying to get us away from God. Some of them not purposeful. Some of them, they don't come with an agenda that they're like, oh yeah, I don't want them serving God. But some of them are. The people who aren't purposeful, I'm trying to explain to you, it's like, hey, listen, don't get away from your scriptures. Our forefathers didn't do it right, and they were accepted by God.
Right.
Verse 18. For a multitude of the people, even many of Ephraim and Manasseh, Yisachar and Zebulun, had not cleansed themselves, yet did they eat the Passover otherwise than it is written. Pertinent part. Next line, highlight this verse. For Hezekiah had prayed for them, saying, the good Lord pardon everyone that sets his heart to seek God, Yahweh, the God of his fathers, though he be not cleansed according to the purification that pertains to the holy things. So don't tell me, when you're the priest, when you're the leader, when you're the man standing before the people, acknowledge your sin and ask God, accept the service, though it may not be perfect. That's what we do here. Though it may not be the Passover lamb, ask God to accept it, even though we're not dealing with it in the manner of the lamb. That's how we do it here. Though it may not be in the time and in the season, because we got some people that's doing it on Monday, some people that's doing it on Thursday, and some people that's doing it on Shabbat. God, please accept them too. Don't take anybody out of your covenant. Look upon their heart and see how they set their heart to do right. And please give us one heart the way you gave our forefathers one heart when we were in the land. I'm not going to stand here and talk about how everybody got 17 different Passovers and we all trying to get it right. At least they trying to get it right. What you doing besides sitting on the sideline making jokes? Oh, look at them. They all look like a bunch of fools. We've been trying to get back together before God. I'll take the person trying to get back to God over the person that doesn't want to serve God any day of the week. Okay, fine. They ain't got fringes on. Okay, fine. They got fringes that go all the way around the hem of their thing. Okay, fine. They don't necessarily look like an Israelite. Okay, fine. She may have on pants, but at least she's trying to wear it in a respectable way. I can work with that. I can talk to that person. I can let you know why we believe the way that we believe and how you should present yourself, especially when you're at Shomray Hab'reet. Right. But the person who's just in the back pointing, this ain't no real feast. That ain't no real thing. They up there talking about this, that, and another. They got a book over there, but I don't know what book they're reading from. I'm supposed to pay attention to that person. I'm supposed to focus on that person. Why? To do what? To get where? That doesn't even make sense. Y'all heard this conversation yet? That ain't the real unleavened bread. What? What? This is the way it's supposed to be done. That's supposed to be. They're trying to serve God. Learn to be accepting of people. You are not always right. And guess what? Some people can acknowledge that they're doing something wrong. I acknowledge that this is not how it's supposed to be. Imagine if Hezekiah was like, you're unclean, no. You're unclean, no. You're unclean, no. You think you're a priest? You didn't even sanctify yourself. No, you should know better. What would they have had? Nothing. So sometimes you can make an executive decision. You're the leader, you're the king. And you say, you know what? This ain't the usual way we do things. This year, we're going to observe Passover in the second month. This year only. This year, okay, you're not ready? Make sure you still clean yourselves. You're going to be bodily clean, but y'all can come in this year, right? But moving forward, this is how we do. Make sure you understand the law. This is what happened with Hezekiah. Why? Because he had to get the ball rolling. I told y'all, there was a point where Israelites, they had service and there was the unclean section for the women. The women sat in the unclean section and everybody else sat over here and service went on. That was then, this is now. Why? The ball had to get rolling. I want y'all to understand verse 20, highlight this also. And Yahweh hearkened to Hezekiah and healed the people. So don't tell me when you do Torah, God heals you.
Okay.
It's healing to your flesh. It's healing to your spirit. How many times have you gone out and did something, right? And after you did it, you felt better after you got out there. After you got out there, you were like, oh, that wasn't that bad. I could do this a little bit more often. That's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, I know, I get it. He's up there yelling, screaming because he wants 1 million people inside his congregation. No, because I know this thing. I know this one thing for sure. Who's God's going to bring, God is going to bring. And I'm telling you, if the wrong people show up, I will do the right thing. But what I'm telling you is, wherever you go, wherever you serve God at, whether in New York City, North Carolina, Florida, Ohio, California, whatever state, city you find yourself in, I'm telling you to go out to service and congregate with those people. If there's a unity Shabbat going on, congregate with your people. Make sure it's your type of people, but congregate with your type of people. There's sometimes when, I'm just being honest. I'm not going to go to a unity Shabbat and I know y'all serve JC. Like, listen, I'm all in the name of unity, but let's be for real. So how many states is it? Moray, we got this unity Shabbat. I can't do that. I'm with you, my brother. We can find some middle ground to meet on, but if y'all got JC there, that's not the thing. All right? That's not me. But if we serve God the same way, yeah, sure. No problem. And let me just tell y'all something. There is no one congregation out here that you cannot bear their service for one day. There's what you're used to, but you can go and listen to see how other people do it, and you might actually learn something. That's what's happening with these people here. You had those who scorned and stayed back and all that other stuff, but the people who wanted to be there, the people who needed to be there, they were there. And even though they weren't ready for the time that they should be ready in, God healed them. It says in verse 21, and the children of Israel that were present at Jerusalem kept the feast of unleavened bread 7 days with great gladness. And the Levites and the priests praised Yahweh day by day, singing with loud instruments unto Yahweh. And Hezekiah spoke encouragingly unto all the Levites that were well skilled in the service of Yahweh. So they did eat throughout the feast for 7 days, offering sacrifices of peace offerings and giving thanks to Yahweh, the God of their fathers. I know I'm belaboring the point, but when is the Feast of Unleavened Bread? In the first month. First day, holy day. 7th day, holy day. They're doing this in the 2nd month. Look at what happens next. Verse 23. And the whole congregation took counsel to keep other 7 days, and they kept other 7 days with gladness. But Hezekiah, king of Judah, did give to the congregation for offerings 1,000 bullocks and 7,000 sheep, and the princes gave to the congregation 1,000 bullocks and 10,000 sheep, and priests sanctified themselves in great numbers, and all the congregation of Judah, Yehuda, with the priests and the Levites, and all the congregation that came out of Israel, and the strangers that came out of the land of Israel, that dwelt in Judah, rejoiced. So there was a great joy in Jerusalem, for since the time of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, there was not the like in Jerusalem. So hold on. Not only was that a long time, they added another week into the situation. How many of us are ready to keep another week of the Feast of Unleavened Bread? That's like Moray's like, yo, you getting right. You're getting a 8th day out of me, right? Shabbat follows, this, that, and another, blah, 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 blah. But another week, this is what I'm trying to tell you. Righteousness and zealousness is contagious. It's contagious. With the right people. You know what? That's what I was talking about COVID. They wasn't worried about their jobs. You know what? Let's keep the party going. You know what? Here's Hezekiah. Out his own pockets. Here's a lamb for you. Go offer that up. Here's a sheep for you. Go offer that up. Right? Here's your goat. I want you to have this. Oh, no, wait, hold on. He offered his lamb. I got to offer my lamb. Man, listen, you skilled people. Let's have this to be a righteous party. Stay on that drum. Stay on that harp. Stay on that flute. Stay on that horn. Let's keep partying. Let's do it. What happens? I didn't plan to stay down here for this long. But you know what? We here. We in. Let's do it. How many of us have that outlook when it comes to serving God? And if not, why not? The priests, the Levites, and all the congregation, even the strangers came out. What party is going on here? How many times do you have people who miss the party then complain about how come they weren't invited to the party?
Right.
Even though they were invited to the party. You know what people say, right? You didn't tell me all that was going on. Well, listen, you didn't tell me you was cooking. You didn't tell me y'all was going to have lamb.
That's when you know me for cooking.
Right. You didn't say you was going to have the alcohol. Because if you say you was going to have the alcohol, I would have definitely, I'd have been there. I'm being funny. Y'all know me, right? All right. But have we seen that happen?
Okay.
Do we see that with people?
Okay.
Verse 27, then the priests, the Levites arose and blessed the people, and their voice was heard of Yahweh, and their prayer came up to his holy habitation, even unto heaven. Hallelujah. Did you see that? So that's what it took.
And they did it wrong.
You've been listening to me for a while. Even look, because that's where I'm going. Like, wait a minute. Moray, you trying to tell me that I can do things the wrong way and still be right with God? Think God didn't see this? You think God didn't know you wouldn't have a Passover lamb? You think God didn't know you wouldn't have a place of worship? You think God didn't know that you wouldn't be able to get yourself unclean from the dead? God seen this before you even thought about it. He's seen it happen, and he knows what's going to happen down the line. And even for all of that, okay, I hear you, and I'm going to bless you. Don't you know that God was blessing you in your sin?
That's right.
God blessed you in your sin. And you appreciated the fact that God blessed you in your sin. Some of us are not even supposed to be standing here right now. As sure as there's a God who created heaven and earth, if things worked out the way I thought things should work out, I would not be standing here before you this day. I should be a dead man. I've done things that I didn't even know was worthy of death. And so when that happens, I got to stop and I say to myself, God must have wanted me here for a reason. He knew I would ask him for forgiveness. He knew that I would be ashamed of myself the same way those Levites were ashamed that they didn't sanctify themselves. The question is, are we really ashamed of ourselves? Do we really believe that God healed us the way he healed these people? And I'm telling you this day that if you're willing, if you're sitting here and you see what's going on, God did heal us. God did heal you. He did heal me. He has us all standing here for a reason. Sitting here, you still worried about counting? You still worried about who got the days right? Which calendar you're following? Why is the calendar like this? Why is the calendar like that? Well, guess what? These people were a whole month off. And after they were a month off, they added 7 days unto the Feast of Unleavened Bread that you can't even have in the second month. And you still hate your brother? You still laughing at them and scorn? And I'm not saying that we all right because somebody's wrong.
Right.
But what I am saying is, I got respect for people who at least want to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High God. At least they doing something.
God heard it.
Let's sit down and reason together. Let's talk about it. Maybe God will give us one heart. Maybe after people see that we're trying to do things together, that they'll stop and they'll say, you know what? No problem. Right? And as you can see here, these people were doing things and it wasn't according to an agenda.
It's organic, right? Got you.
See it?
Right.
Leave the agenda out.
That's right.
Leave the, oh, because Maury Yiftach called us all together, I want y'all all to bow down unto me. It's not what this is about. This is about us getting on the same page. And when we get on the same page, I want you to know that at the same way, don't try to undermine my efforts as we try to get back together as a people.
Okay.
King Hezekiah wanted to do something. He took counsel and the people were like, it was good, and he could only get certain people to do it. Your strength is not in your numbers. Your strength is in God.
Amen.
Remember that. We're going to turn to Second Chronicles Chapter 35, and we're going to end out here, and we are going to do this quickly. Same book, chapter 35. Two different kings. King Hezekiah was the first one. Who's the second king we're about to talk about?
Josiah.
King Josiah. What do we remember about King Josiah? He was the young king, right?
The second youngest king.
Second youngest king. What else do we know about him? Died early.
Yeah, he got in the way.
He died early. What's one more thing? What was he known for? Passover. But he got rid of the idols out of the land. Remember when God told the prophet, he was like, tell Josiah, I see him. I see what he's trying to do. Josiah he made sweeping changes. This gotta go, that gotta go. I'm gonna tell y'all, we're not gonna have a question and answer this afternoon unless somebody over here does what she gotta do. But what did they have to get rid of in Hezekiah's time? I just taught y'all this. What did they get rid of out of Jerusalem? Sweeping changes.
The altar.
The altars.
Right.
Altars and incense.
Right.
You got a clean house. We ain't coming back to God and doing the same thing. So they have to get rid of the altars and all of that other stuff. What did Josiah have to get rid of? False gods. Then I was in it. Listen, let's get all this stuff out of here. Now here we go with him observing the Passover. Second Chronicles chapter 35, and we're going to begin in verse 1. Hallelujah. And Josiah kept a Passover unto Yahweh in Jerusalem. And they killed the Passover lamb on the 14th day of the first month. And he set the priests in their charges and encouraged them to the service of the house of Yahweh. And he said unto the Levites that taught all Israel, that were holy unto Yahweh, put the holy ark in a house which Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, did build. There shall no more be a burden upon your shoulders. Now serve Yahweh your God and his people, Yisrael. What's wrong with this, brothers and sisters? Hezekiah, he was supposed to have fixed all of this, right? But did Hezekiah fix all of it?
No.
No. And so now here's King Josiah encouraging the people. Why am I saying this? It all depends on who the leader is, what the people decide to do. I want you to keep that in mind. What the leader tolerates is how you see people moving. Sometimes the reason why people aren't around is because their foolishness is no longer tolerated. And so what you see here, Josiah had to get to a point where he had to encourage the people. So he had to tell them, put the ark back, serve Yahweh your God, and understand that the Most High God wants us to do something. Verse 4 states, and prepare ye after your father's houses by your courses, according to the writing of David, king of Israel, and according to the writing of Solomon, his son. And stand in the holy place according to the division of the fathers' houses of your brethren, the children of the people, and let there be for each a portion of a father's house of the Levites. And kill the Passover lamb, and sanctify yourselves, and prepare for your brethren to do according to the word of Yahweh by the hand of Moshe. And Josiah gave to the children of the people of the flock, lambs, and kids, all of them for the Passover offerings, unto all that were present, to the number of 30,000 and 3,000 bullocks. These were of the king's substance. So I taught us this the other day, right? And I talked about this earlier. What's the similarity between Hezekiah and King Josiah? Both of them gave to the people so that they can offer to God. I say that, and I want us to keep this in mind, because there's a reality, brothers and sisters, that it is okay for us to give to others to give to God. How many of us think that that's a sucker move? How many of us think, he'd be like, why am I going to give my hard-earned money to you to give to God? I'm telling you, I'm a little bit more like my grandmother than I thought. And I didn't realize until I became a middle-aged man. My grandmother used to send me to church. And when she took me to church, and my grandmother never sent me to church by myself. She always walked with me in there and sat next to me in service. She was like, when a collection plate goes around, this is what I want you to give to God. It wasn't a bunch of money, but it was something. What was it teaching me?
Give to God.
Learn to offer. Learn not to be selfish. Learn to volunteer. People have to be taught how to volunteer. People have to be taught how not to be selfish. People need to be taught how to give to God. And so sometimes you might see a situation where you come in and you see the table, and the table is full of stuff, and the people who come in, please take one. Please take one. Please take one. Okay, when you see the priest come around, when you see this go around, that's what you put into the basket. That's what you put into this. That's what you put into that. What does it teach you? It teaches you that this should be you giving to God. So the next time it comes around, you go, oh no, we don't need the king to give it to us, because this is what I have out of my own flock. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. How many of us have had to teach our children how not to be selfish? I tell people this all the time. Shomray Hab'reet has a food pantry. Within the food pantry, I have to teach people to volunteer their services. Beit Shalom has a food pantry. Within them having a food pantry, I have to teach people to volunteer their services. How do I teach people how to volunteer their services? By me being there.
An example.
I'm lifting up boxes too. I'm handing out food too. I'm sitting there and I'm telling people as I give them food, God bless you, brother. God bless you, sister. I hope this is one more meal that will help you and your family. How does that make people feel? People, hey, what's going on? Hey, listen, young man. If you got time, I want you to come and volunteer for the food pantry. Okay, I can do that. You don't got to be out here all day. I want you to come out as soon as you get out of school. Come down here, put in a few hours with these ladies. If you're off of work, come on down and, help us with some of these boxes, help us clean up, things of that nature. God will love you for it. Oh, now the people, yeah, you know what? You're right, brother. Here, listen, give me your number. Let me give you my number. And the next time you're out here, just hit me up. That's how it all gets started, That's how these things happen. So that when we find ourselves at this point, when we get there, now we can stop and we're like, oh, okay, that's what it is. What do you think they're doing here? This is what Josiah's doing. Do you think he learned that from Hezekiah? Crickets. Had to. You learn by example.
Kings had to write it down.
You lead by example.
Right.
The name of this book is Chronicles. Chronicles of who?
The kings.
You got to read it. You have to write it down. Right. You have to look back on it.
I'm glad you said that. Did y'all hear what he just said? You have to read it. The reason why we don't know is because we don't see what people do.
Okay.
This is what happens. Have we seen our leaders give enough? Have we seen our leaders lead by example enough? I'm standing here in the spot. If I need to be called out, call me out. If I don't work, call me out. If it's feast days and I'm just shooting instructions, but I'm not out here, call me out. But my congregants know how I move. I'm not just on a text message like, yo, I want to see y'all out here. I'm sitting here like, what do we need? What do I need to do? What do you need for me to give you so that we can have a beautiful feast? That's what's happening here. Verse 8. And his princes gave willingly unto the people, to the priests and to the Levites, Hilkiah and Zechariah and Jehiel, the rulers of the house of God, gave unto the priests for the Passover offering 2,600 small cattle and 300 oxen. Cananiah also, and Shemaiah and Nethanel, his brethren, and Hashabiah. Let me get that Hebrew there. Kashav-Yahu, and Yehiel, and Yozabad, the chiefs of the Levites, gave unto the Levites for the Passover offerings 5,500 oxen. So the service was prepared, and the priests stood in their place, and the Levites by their courses, according to the king's commandment. And they killed the Passover lamb, and the priests dashed the blood which they received of their hand, and the Levites flayed them. And they removed the portions that were to be burnt, that they might give them to the divisions of the fathers' houses of the children of the people, to present unto Yahweh. As it is written in the book of Moses, so did they with the oxen. And they roasted the Passover with fire according to the ordinance, and the holy offering sod they in pots and in cauldrons and in pans, and carried them quickly to all the children of the people. And afterward they prepared for themselves and for the priests, because the priests, the sons of Aharon, were busied in offering the portions that were to be burnt and the fat until night. Therefore the Levites prepared for themselves and for the priests, for the sons of Aharon. And the singers, which is the part I want to focus on, the sons of Asaph were in their place according to the commandment of David, and Asaph and Heman and Yedutun the king's seer. And the porters were at every gate, and they needed not to depart from their service, for their brethren, the Levites, prepared for them. So all the service of Yahweh was prepared the same day to keep the Passover and to offer burnt offerings upon the altar of Yahweh, according to the commandment of King Josiah. And the children of Israel that were present kept the Passover at that time and the Feast of Unleavened Bread 7 days. Do y'all see the progression? Do y'all see how it worked? The difference between Hezekiah and Josiah. One did it in the second month, the other did it in the first month. But there's only way they could have got to that progression is if they acknowledged what they were doing wrong. Say, oh, they made the mistake. Hezekiah had to pray for them. Let's do this right. Let's have this person do this and this person do that. And this is going to be like this. And we're going to make sure that everybody, now not only the princes got into the act. Did y'all read that? The Levites got in on the act.
They weren't selfish either.
Correct.
Cauldrons and pots, they had to bring it out to the people before they even got to them.
Listen,
So
there was enough lamb for everybody.
That's right. It's a cauldron.
You imagine coming to a feast where I sit down and I tell you feast fees are waived this year.
Right. That's a good year.
Man.
Oh,
That's a good year.
Josh, are we gonna be back wall to wall?
Yeah.
They were like, Shomray Hab'reet's feast is free this year. I'm going over there. And guess what? I look forward to the day. I look forward to the day. I'm not trying to get rich off of you. I'm trying to serve God with you. Let me say that one more time. I'm not trying to get rich off of you. I'm trying to serve God with you. You have to understand, there's a point. It's like, Moray, don't worry about that. I'm bringing the juice. I already got that. I'm bringing the lamb. I got that. We know how much a lamb costs. Don't worry about that. I got the lamb for the feast. For the feast? For the feast. If you're promising me that y'all are going to bring this food and everything's going to be set up, I'm going to take care of the lambs myself. That's what's happening here, right? Oh, okay. Well, if you got this, then I got this. If you got this, then, oh, now we got fancy cups. We got fancy plates. Everything is looking good. We're doing everything great. What happens after that? How do I feel about you? I want to do this again with you next year. Because if you got that type of heart, that's what we're talking about, one heart. Listen, sis, no problem.
But God forbid if it didn't happen the next year, the willing of the heart to come out won't be a problem because they saw the camaraderie the year before.
Listen, the unity always brings it back together. Let me tell you something. You have one party with people that you knew you could get along with. No fights broke out. It wasn't nothing but love. At the end of it, it was like, yo, good. The vibe was great. Everybody was talking with one another. You met some new people, and you was like, yo, I didn't know. Yo, who's your father again? Oh, word. Just that another. What happens? When's the next party?
Call back to people the next day. Just
Right.
To tell them how good it was.
How was, yo, the vibe was great. This, that, and another. When is the next party? If y'all have another party, let me know. I will be there. That's how that goes. This is how it happens. Now, I want us to read some more and look at this. Verse 18. So Hezekiah's feast was good, right? Verse 18 says, now, remember in Hezekiah, it said, not since the days of David, not since the days of King Solomon. Verse 18, and there was no Passover like to that kept in Israel from the days of Samuel the prophet, neither did any of the kings of Israel keep such a Passover as Josiah kept, and the priests and the Levites and all Judah and Israel that were present and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. So what was different?
Everybody pretty much came. It wasn't portions.
Correct.
Right? They had Ephraim, Manasseh, and Reuben. They had to send letters to them. Everybody came.
Hey, what happened? She been reading my notes, writing my lesson, all this other stuff, right? But she's right. She's absolutely right, because that's exactly where I'm going. Hezekiah, he had a great feast. But remember, there were people laughing him to scorn. Oh, but this one was even greater. It was an even greater level of unity. Progress. Let's learn to build off of one another in the things that we do. Let's learn that the Most High God will allow us to do the right thing when we want to do the right thing. And let's have every feast be better than the other. Last verse 19, in the 18th year of the reign of Josiah was this Passover kept. So yeah, I heard when I said it before, even leaders get better as time goes along. It took him 18 years of his reign to get to this point, but guess what? He did it. And guess what? People liked it. It was a blessing. Now, listen, it's there. Correct. So what I'm telling us is our Passovers have to get better year by year. Don't think that just because you eat unleavened bread, it can't be great. We see right here, our forefathers, 2 separate occasions, great on both occasions. But what made it great? The community, the unity,
the zeal, the willingness and the
Yes.
acknowledgement of wanting to do.
That's it.
That's it.
No
Hoping and
excuses.
praying y'all got something out of what I said. And that the Most High God found these words acceptable to be spoken before his people. As I bid you all in the tongue of our forefathers, Shabbat Shalom Lakem. All right, it's time for us to eat. I said, and we're going to get us on up out of here. I just want to take the time to say Shabbat Shalom to everyone that is online. I'm not going to call off all of your names, but I just want y'all to know it's very much appreciated, your support. I'm getting all your text messages. Everyone who reaches out to me and tells me, keep doing what you're doing, stay strong, things of that nature. I need those messages. I appreciate you. I love you. I'm going to ask all of you to continue. If you find yourself in the New York City area, please come out and join us. I look forward to meeting you all. And I ask that the Most High God continue to bless you all, even in your feast. And I just want to make sure that I say this, and I want to say this publicly. When you hear me speaking strong about God, you cannot take it personal. And I do not want you to take it personal. I want you to understand that the reason why I'm speaking strong is not that the message is about you, but I'm trying to get you to feel for God what I feel for God. So what I'm going to tell you is if I've offended anybody in any of my lessons, I apologize to you all because that is not the intent. My job as your spiritual leader is to get you closer to God, to take you in the book, to show you verses of how our forefathers served God, and we go forward from there. Saying Shabbat Shalom to my sister Ariel, and a delayed Yom Huledet Sameach to you, my sister. May the Most High God continue to bless you. Shabbat Shalom to Gaveret Nasira, who I thought I would see here today, but, maybe she's on her way because she does that sometimes. She'll be in an Uber and, she'll be just watching on YouTube and send a text. 10 minutes later, I see her walking through the door. I ask the Most High God continue to be with you. Everybody, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel so you can get notifications. This afternoon, we will be returning we'll be up by 6 o'clock. Probably about 6:30, we'll get started. Please join us in the afternoon. We will have a question and answer period. Bring your questions. We will have a little bit more of teaching going on. And I ask that the Most High God continue to bless you all. May everyone please rise and face the east as we say our closeout prayer. Josh, I know I never asked you. Want to give us one? He's like, no. All right. This afternoon. This afternoon, I got you. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Yahweh God, God of the heaven, the God of our forefathers, even the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzchak, and the God of Israel. We give you thanks and praise, Yahweh God, for the service you just allowed us to have. We give you thanks and praise, Yahweh God, for the word you've allowed us to hear. We give you thanks and praise, Yahweh God, for the word you've allowed us to speak, to understand the history of our forefathers, to understand, Yahweh God, that they may not have been right before you, but that they were right before you. That, Yahweh God, you heal the people for those who think to set their heart towards you. And I ask, Yahweh God, that you look upon this people and see how we set our heart towards you and how we stand before you this day. Though it may not be the Shabbat day, we understand that it is a holy day. And we understand to praise and glorify you. I ask, Yahweh God, that you bless the food that we're about to eat. As we begin to feast before you, Yahweh God, allow it to nourish our bodies as well as our mind. As we begin to wane down even the closing of our feast, that we might not forget about the Feast of Unleavened Bread and not forget about what you blessed us with. I ask, Yahweh God, that our tables might never be empty. I ask, Yahweh God, that the food would nourish our bodies as well as our mind, as well as our soul. I ask, Yahweh God, that those who don't have a meal this day, that you might bless them. Bless those who are in the prison houses, Yahweh God. Bless those, Yahweh God, who are on a long journey. Bless those, Yahweh God, who want to keep your Passover but can't keep it this time. And if they decide to keep the Passover in the second month, on the 14th day, bring them out of their houses, bring them back home, bring them to a point where they can't eat the lamb, where they can't eat the bitter herb, where they can't eat the unleavened bread. And I ask Yahweh God, as I ask in my prayer, that my words were not offensive to anybody. Amen. That my words only brought people closer unto you. Amen. That Yahweh God, the words that I speak will cause people to want to praise and glorify you, Yahweh and that we could all have one heart. Therefore, I ask you, oh God, that you bless us as you bless our forefathers. That when you gave them the children of Israel that were in Judah, and you gave them one heart to even do the Passover, that you would give us the same one heart to live as a nation of people amongst one another. We call upon you because we realize that you are God and God alone, and that beside you there is no other. All glory, all honor, and all praises unto your name now and forevermore. Hallelujah.
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 Well, amen. And at this time, brothers and sisters, I'll say the words of the blessing that the Most High God commanded the sons of Aaron to say before the children of Israel whenever we gathered, asking that the Most High God might continue to bless us throughout this day, that he would give us the peace that we seek in our lives, and that he might desire to bless us always. And if you don't know by now, I will remind you, this is found in the book of Numbers, chapter 6, beginning in verse 22. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Why da be Yahweh el Moshe lemor, da be el Aharon we el Benah lemor, kol tevarku e bnei Yisrael amor lehem. And Yahweh spoke unto Moshe, saying, speak unto Aharon and unto his son, saying, on this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, ye shall say unto them, Yivareka Yahweh Yishmareka. Ya'ir Yehopanah leka wikuneka. Yisa Yehopanah leka we'asem leka shalom. Yehovah bless thee and keep thee. Yehovah make his face to shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. Yehovah lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. We'samu et shemi al b'nei Yisrael we'ani avarekem. So shall they put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Brothers and sisters, please be seated for a few moments longer. For those of you who have it in your heart, brothers and sisters, please donate to Congregation Shomray Hab'reet. All of those who have it in your heart, for all your tithes, for all your offerings, and all your donations. For those who want to give their offering for the holy season, please CashApp us at $ShomrayHabreet, at Zelle 917-804-6420, or at PayPal, y.7@aol.com. It is a $25 suggested donation. The fee for the holy season is $50 for a single, $100 for a family. Whatever your donation may be, you can donate to us for all your tithes, your offerings, and donations at CashApp, $ShomrayHabreet, at Zelle 917-804-6420, or at PayPal, ydhm7@aol.com, and may your offerings be seen as righteousness in the sight of God. All right, brothers and sisters, as I told you earlier, we will be returning at approximately 6 p.m., but we will be feasting. We're going to have some more. I hope you all decide to join us. I hope you all would come and continue to hear the word of God with us. I ask that the Most High God continue to be with you all. Kag Tov Lakem.